Work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, Township of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers a list of dates annually indicating that this work session, regular meeting, would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2014. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by Councilwoman Rosalind Sherman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us take the next few moments of silence to each seek in our own way whatever sources of inspiration will grant us the strength and power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all times.
Amen.
Amen.
I'll see if I can find something and I'll email it to you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll of the council.
Councilman Chase? Councilwoman Francois?
Here.
Councilman Kramer?
Here.
Mayor Levine?
Here.
Councilman Prasad?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Here.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Here.
Councilman Vasanella?
Here.
Councilman Wright?
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a quorum here. We are following along on our agendas. You can find them by our clerk, Ms. McCarthy. Please feel free to get up and get them at any time with the associated resolutions, ordinances. Also, usually around the weekend before the meeting, they can be seen on our website, and you can see the agendas. You can click on the ordinance resolutions and see all that is going to be discussed. So we are now at item number 5 on the agenda, commendations and proclamations, of which we are giving commendations and proclamations for our recent 4th of July celebration on July 14th. So if I could please be joined by Councilman Wright, I would appreciate it.
For all of you who don't know, this is my brother, Bill Grippo. Yes. I have a commendation. He's our chairman of our 4th of July committee. So all the 4th of Julys that we've had since 2010, Bill Grippo. So if you enjoyed it, let's give Bill a hand. No taxpayer dollars. Commendation. Whereas William Bill Grippo has served this community as its chairman of the 4th of July Celebration Committee since 2010 and has been an enthusiastic and hardworking member of our community. And whereas without Bill's tireless fundraising efforts, the township would not be able to provide a 4th of July celebration at no cost to the taxpayers. Whereas Bill has earned the respect and admiration of everyone with whom he has come into contact by his wholehearted and dedicated spirit he has for our community. And therefore, we, Carl R.A. Wright, Councilman 4th Ward, and Mayor Brian D. Levine, on behalf of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, extend our heartfelt appreciation and sincere thanks to Bill Grippo for his valuable service and dedication to the citizens of our community. Dated September the 23rd, 2014. Bill's going to say just a little bit of word.
Right, just don't give me a microphone, right? First, I want to thank you, council, mayor, and people. What better time to receive a proclamation than on the eve of where our country is fighting for our freedom and our safety? It certainly wasn't planned this way this evening. And I certainly didn't expect a proclamation for myself. I really asked council to do a proclamation for the people who I was able to work with that made great donations to do such a spectacular event. I think this year, even though it was a rain date, we had one of the biggest turnouts, which surprised us because we didn't think people were going to be around, and the place was just mobbed, and people had a good time. So, but this would not have happened without our donors. We're going to give them a proclamation now. I'm not going to read every one of them, and I didn't bring my glasses, so you have nothing to worry about. But I wanted to especially thank Tiffany Delaney, who's Mr. Vornlocker's assistant. She was a wonderful person to work with, and I just hope the minutes can reflect that. Besides Tiffany, Alice Osipowicz in the Parks and Recreation Department, every year they're there for us. The Public Works people who are setting up, cleaning up, our police and fire people and first aid people who make sure that we're safe. It's just a wonderful community event. Most townships in New Jersey have canceled their 4th of July celebration because of costs. We have a beautiful piece of property here in Franklin Township. It's just magnificent, and when we gather all those thousands of people, we represent the diversity and the fabric of what America is. So I'm just proud to be part of a team. And I also want to thank Bob Vornlocker and Raj Sherman, who's on the committee with me. Without these people, Raj does the cultural arts, did a great job Saturday, I heard, in the park, and just a wonderful leader for us. And Mr. Vornlocker worked with me years ago with the 4th of July. Actually, it's not 2010. Way back in the days of Township Manager Harry Gerken, we started the old-fashioned 4th back in the early 80s. It went for many years. One year I actually had an Italian festival. It was great. And then it got interrupted because of budget, and we picked it up again. But it's just been a great legacy for Franklin. So if I could, just, Mayor, if we could thank the Roz, I'm sorry, please. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment that I represent the Cultural Arts Council when I sit on the 4th of July committee, and I just wanted to thank Bill and the township for giving us this opportunity to bring in talent that we think has provided a great deal of pleasure. The band is usually our selection. All the entertainment that night comes through us at the Cultural Arts Council. So thank you for including us, and we hope to be part of your team from now on.
Great. Mayor, you want to read the proclamation? So these are just the major companies that helped us, professionals in the township or out of the township. Hatchmark McDonald. I'm not going to read the proclamation, but Green Hill Manor. I have to give this back. McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman. The Micro Corporation. Trap Rock Industries. They've been supporting us for decades. Stagehouse Restaurant made a very big donation, which lasted 3 years, let me put it that way. And they benefit, but we certainly benefit by having them as a neighbor.
Good.
RPM Management. Richard Raffanello. Resta Car Care. Walens Goldman Spitzer. the Garden State Exhibit Center, the Praise Presbyterian Church is the Korean community on Cedar Grove Lane. You probably all saw that beautiful church. They have to be the most generous people I've ever met. Every year, every charity, they're there. It's just in their culture. It's amazing. Dennis Osiello, CME Associates, Carroll Engineering Corporation, Business Government Insurance Agency, Briar Manor Developers, Appraisal Consultants Corporation, Remington Verdnick Engineers, Pacific Controls, Nicholas J. DeMeglio, New Venture Benefits Group, Murphy McEwen, Joy Systems. This gentleman's also part of the Praise Korean Church. His company's on Cottontail. He donated a significant amount privately. Josepha Incorporation, Investors Bank, Hodgelick and Morrison. And these are the people who underwrote the 4th of July for us. So give them a nice round of applause. Thank you very much.
And as Councilman Wright said, with Mr. Grippo, people have known him for decades, 25, 30 years in town, raising money, I guess going back decades for muscular dystrophy and everything in between. And what we wanted to do is have good recreation, but save the taxpayer some money, and he's the one who at first stepped up to do that. You saw that whole list. You don't get money like that by just sending out an email to a lot of people, and they start sending in checks. It's writing, it's calling, it's saying, okay, where's your check? And then it's coordinating the police, the recreation, and everyone. So it was a great effort. And again, Mr. Grippo chaired it. Thanks a lot. Longtime icon, principal, and every other hat you can almost imagine in town. So we appreciate it. Plus for all of those people who got the commendations. Okay, thank you. We are now at item number 6 on the agenda, which is Mayor's report. And my mug this meeting is from the Broadway play Wicked, and one reason could be a lot of people have viewed me as that way and termed it, so I will certainly accept that. The other thing is to always keep in mind things aren't always as they seem. Everyone, just one small example, the 4th of July, which we said. It's kind of seamless. Everyone comes there. There's music. There's entertainment. There's great fireworks, but there's scores and scores of hours leading up to it. And there's a lot of things like that, and I know that's in your own life also. So as I said, you can come up, get our agenda, resolutions, ordinances. You can usually get them on the weekend before, certainly at the municipal building, but also online, so you know what's happening. During our meeting, there will be basically 2 portions at which the public can speak. In a couple minutes is public discussion of a general nature. You can come up and tell us anything that's on your mind, and I'll let you know our policies for that at that point. A little bit later on, there's public hearings on ordinances, and there's 2 in particular, and if you want to speak on those particular ordinances, that's later on, but at the later point, it's only relevant to that. So if you want to speak of something of a general nature, that's going to come up in just a couple of minutes. Our meetings are generally the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. July, August, and December are exceptions, where it's the 2nd Tuesday. However, this December, it's going to be not the 2nd Tuesday, but the following Thursday at 7 p.m., because that Tuesday, there's going to be a special election put on by the Board of Education regarding some capital projects. And please note if you come speak, we're audio taping, we're videotaping. So a couple things that have occurred in the past, in the past few weeks. Our food bank was extremely active and does great work. And as you may know, in a bad economy, which has been going on endlessly, they have greater demand than ever before. So they have bagging for hunger at ShopRite, the one on Elizabeth Avenue. So thanks to the organizers, the food bank, Franklin High School ROTC was there volunteering also. I was there to cut the ribbon and bag a little, but everyone else really did the hard work there. We have 3 new Eagle Scouts in town. They earned this distinction at their Eagle Scout Court of Honor. I was there to represent and give them a greeting on our behalf. As was alluded to, and I won't steal anyone's thunder, Franklin Day was last weekend, but I'm sure people are going to be mentioning that soon. The one thing just generally, our Open Space Committee had a meeting last week. Various items were discussed, but just for general sake, the council makes all the decisions. No decision has been made on anything about which they have spoken recently, and things are still being planned. It's brought to our attention recently that us and other municipalities should re-examine our curfew ordinance that was brought by Mr. John Paff, a resident here, very active around the state. I respect him a lot for all that he does to keep government functioning as it should. So I'm going to interrupt myself, because I'm bringing it up now, our attorney, Mr. Lou Raynone, to comment on that briefly, because I think he examined our curfew ordinance to see what the issues were.
Thank you, Mayor. Our curfew ordinance was substantially rewritten a number of years ago following the adoption of a state statute, which strictly set forth the terms upon which we could adopt and have a curfew ordinance. And that state law was in many respects a response to case law concerning, let's call it abuses of curfew-type ordinances. It was at the same time that the court was reviewing things like loitering ordinances and the use of those by police departments. So I did review the information that Mr. Paff was kind enough to send to us, the complaint and brief that was filed in another case that was against another New Jersey municipality that ultimately got settled. And I actually have kind of pass this on a little bit to the police department just for them to get back to me and to give me some indication as to what our experience has been with the curfew ordinance. My impression is that it is rarely invoked to the extent that we issue summonses, but I think that it's more used as a tool by the police department to just kind of keep the good order. So as of right now, I don't think that there's any need for us to take any action. I'm waiting to, I haven't had an opportunity to sit down in any detail with the police chief, but I will do that in the coming weeks and keep council updated.
Okay, thank you. And if I can just ask for clarification, it basically deals with minors after
Correct.
hours,
Correct.
being past
Correct.
11 p.m.
Correct.
However, that doesn't preclude us from issuing curfews in certain situations like Halloween and things like that we traditionally have.
Well, it does, but, once again, even those type of things are done with very, you have to be done very carefully and in accordance with
Okay.
the state law. And there's actually provisions in our ordinance about those type of uses of the curfew ordinance. Let's call it more of an emergency type use.
Okay, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Also, now school is open. Please drive carefully. Keep your eye on our student theatrical productions. They are excellent, as well as supporting our athletic teams. As far as being by our athletic teams, on a personal note, I took my ALS Ice Bucket Challenge during halftime at the last Franklin football game, along with the superintendent. Video's posted somewhere. I'll try and get that up for you also. And coming up, our 50-year-old and older, I'm not sure how you phrase it, softball league. They're having what's turning out now to be their annual game with police firefighters. Again, they're raising money for the food bank. Thanks to the commissioner there, Bob LaCourte, for arranging it. Come and watch. It's a small suggested donation, like $5. Goes directly to the food bank. Anything else is, you can certainly do that too. And also, annual for many, many years on October 4th is the Sisters Network annual 5K walk race at Franklin High School. Thank you to the Board of Education for allowing the high school to be used. Great event. They raise money for breast cancer awareness, especially amongst African American women. You can certainly attend and contribute there. And that's all that I have. So now we go to item number 7, Deputy Mayor's report. So Deputy Mayor Brian Regan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Since our last meeting, in one of the papers, I think it was the Home News and the Courier, they ran an article about showing a map of where where in New Jersey most struggling families are. And I read that article because today, though the economy has in some way recovered from '08, there clearly is still many families struggling. And a term, ALICE, or an acronym ALICE, was introduced to me. I didn't know ALICE was more than a name or a song, but it's also asset limited, income constricted, employed, basically describing the difficulties of the working family in Central Jersey, in New Jersey. In Somerset County, a family of 4, basically, where's the number? I think it's like $64,000 a year. A family of 4 is just considered meeting the needs to meet the expenses of living in this area. So, you know, it's something that we're all very conscious of, and we need to be very aware of in government. One of the resources that folks have in dealing with housing issues and trying to find rental properties or even trying to get into a house is someone we work very closely with. In fact, today on our agenda, we're doing our CDBG grants, and one of the recipients of that grant is Central Jersey Housing Resource Center. They've been in here multiple times. It's a wonderful organization that works very hard to provide guidance and counseling to folks who are trying to, find house and find affordable housing and affordable rental units. So, I just wanted to take time to mention that because without a company like that, a nonprofit who tries to help people, it would even be more difficult for families in Central Jersey or in New Jersey overall. Somerset is one of the most expensive counties in the state. Huntington, I think Huntington was the number 1, slightly more. So to have a resource like Central Jersey Housing Resource to help individuals is a real asset to our community here in Franklin. As the mayor mentioned, the food bank did a fundraiser. They've done multiple ones in addition to the grossing the bag. They also did one a week ago Sunday relative to having hot dogs with the PBA. Again, another resource for the food bank is being used way too much. There are a lot of families that need it, and they do wonderful work. We are very fortunate in Franklin to have many caring folks in this town, in this community, to help those that are finding it difficult with their jobs. Also, as mentioned, and again, I know Councilwoman Raj Sherman will go into it more on the Franklin Township Day. I attended that. It was a wonderful event. I look forward for the day that we will be able to host that in actually a municipal park. It was a wonderful experience, a lot of great people, and again, I'll leave all the rest to Councilwoman Rosalind to give the update on. At the last meeting, it was prior to 9/11, so we had there were many 9/11 ceremonies on that for that event, and St. Matthias had one with the fire service organizations coming to do it. That day, I lost two cousins, one a hero and one a victim. And what I find is now, 13 years later, we as a society are starting to forget that day. The churches in these events are nowhere near packed as what they used to be, and it's just human nature. I know when I grew up in the in the 60s and 70s, when they talked about Pearl Harbor Day, I couldn't relate to that because I was born so far after that I just didn't understand the impact that day had on people. It ended up, my father-in-law was flying to Pearl Harbor that day that it was bombed. So had he been there one day earlier, my life would have been different. So I think, again, within our community, we lost 6 residents that day. One of them, John Collins, a firefighter in New York City. And I think it really is important for us when we see these events, because our lives have become so busy that we don't even have time sometimes to look and see this. But what they do, many places have the concept of a service day, and ours was a half a day. It was 9 to 1. So we took 9 a.m. to 1 o'clock on a Saturday to go do some work at a place that needed it. The food bank, Great Expectations, a couple other places in town. But as you get a chance to reflect on that, I would ask everybody to be mindful of that, because it's really a day we can never forget. We just can't. The sister network, as the mayor mentioned, and I know Councilman Carl Wright very actively involved in that, we'll be talking about it. I will be walking in that event. As part of our agenda, you'll see we will be providing, because I can see many faces out here, we will be providing an update on the Middle Bush Park sound system. That will come later, as it's listed as a council discussion item. And I think that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, and I appreciate bringing Alice before us again. That's very good. Or I shouldn't say again, bring it before us. Okay, so now we're at item number 8, public discussion. And this is where you can speak of anything of a general nature. And again, in a little bit, we're going to have where the public can speak, but it's only going to be on particular ordinances. So this is, if anything's of a general nature, where you'll speak. As is our policy, we ask that everyone comes up once per meeting, and no yielding of time. It's just that tell us your thoughts. We allocate you 5 minutes so we can hear from as many people as we can. After 3 minutes has elapsed, you'll hear a tone, meaning obviously you have 2 minutes left. And after 5 minutes, you'll hear multiple tones on a timer we have, and I'll ask you to please wrap up your thoughts so that we can move on and hear from other people. If you can feel free to let us know what's on your mind, ask us questions. If we can answer it, we certainly will.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Just a
Councilwoman Furman?
clarification, please. Ordinances are listed on the agenda, and people will know which ones they are, and they'll talk about it. The council discussion item for the sound system, that doesn't have the same separate audience participation. Is that correct?
Yeah, good point. When we speak about, as Councilwoman Sherman is saying, on the agenda, it was revised from the weekend under item 11, council discussion, South Middle Bush Park sound system. That's a council discussion. There's no public discussion at that point. Good point. So if you want to talk about that, this would be the time. Thanks for bringing that
And just
to our attention.
clarification, because
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Right, no final decisions are made, directions are given, but versus a vote, right?
Right.
Resolution is a different animal.
Right. And you're basically saying you don't anticipate any.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, let it go, let it go.
Okay. All right, yeah, if you want to speak about the sound system, this would be the time to do that. In a moment, when I ask for people. A slight change because it goes into our record. So when you come up, I'll ask you to state your name and address. We have a sign-in sheet too, just because sometimes we can't hear it properly. If you can neatly write in your name and address, that would be terrific too, so we know who you are. If you want to be anonymous, that's of course okay. So, is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is now open for public discussion on any item of interest which does not have a public hearing of its own. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand. And when I call on you, come up and give your name and address. Okay, why don't you, a couple of you come up since there's many people. You can, go behind him.
Good evening. Wayne Dubofsky, 27 Magellan Way, Franklin Park. I want to call your attention, if I may, to the council, to your special meeting of June 30th in Catawba Park. And I specifically want to call your attention to the motion, the last motion that was made that evening, that by direction of the council, at the request of the township manager and staff would work with the land use subcommittee on a proposal in relationship to a needs assessment on the park and prepare recommendations to this council in August or September. So my question is, where are we? Or is that part of the township manager's report for later this evening? Or are you still studying the issue?
Were you planning on addressing that at this point? If not, we'll just give them now.
I mean, I certainly can.
Okay. You want to do that at this point? please?
Sure.
Thanks. Mr. Vornlocker.
So where we are at is that the Land Use Committee did in fact meet and discuss moving forward with the design of Catawba Park. It's currently in the hands of the engineer based on a meeting that Councilman Chase had with the residents of the area surrounding the property. That input was taken and given to the engineering firm to come up with a new concept plan. So once we have a new concept plan, it'll go back to the Land Use Committee. If it meets with their approval, then it will move on to the various committees through the town that typically review park plans, open space advisory, trails, rec advisory, financial oversight, administration. So that's the process right now. We're waiting for the engineer to come back with plans.
Won't we have a public hearing somewhere in that?
Well,
process?
we will repeat the same exact process as the law requires. Any change in use and the proposed change in use must be heard at a public hearing. So that's why we had that last special meeting. That was a requirement of the Green Acres regulations. And there will be a public notice, and that hearing will take place. But it won't take place until the concept plan has been vetted through all the various committees of the township.
I thank you for that. I want to move on, if I may. Last Tuesday, the Open Space Advisory Committee, Councilman Chase was there, heard from the community, and they made a non-binding resolution to ask for a moratorium on all build-out of parks until a utilization study has been done. And I would hope, because that was one of the major discussions going back to June 30th, is a utilization study needs to be done in this community, not a needs assessment, but actual utilization. My last point deals with a subject you're going to deal with tonight, which is the sound system at South Middlebush Park. I will just leave you with this comment for our good friends at South Middlebush Park. Two wrongs have never made a right. You've already made a wrong with the lights. Don't perpetuate a second one. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Who else would like to speak? Yes, sir. And anyone else? Yeah, you can go after him. Then you can line up.
Hi, my name is Peter White. I'm at 94
Hi.
Charles Street. I just wanted to bring up the conversation that we're about to have about the sound system that's in the park. I just wanted to also bring to your attention and possibly leave it for anybody who's interested, a journal article from 2014, from May of 2014, from the Journal of Environmental Protection. It delineates the dangers of the sound that is being proposed on the environment physical problems as well as psychological problems. Learning problems for children. It's very clear where it states that government should do everything they can to decrease sound levels. The soundscape is a very important matter, as they talk about in here. And it's important for whoever's making the decisions to look to improve that and not make it worse. In fairness, I also tried to find journal peer-reviewed articles regarding the benefits of loudspeakers for athletics. I couldn't find any. Now, I was able to find many articles for the benefits of sports for youth. Many of us have played sports. We all could go on all day about the benefits of sports. But not one article talks about the benefits of loudspeakers for sports. This journal article is very clear, and I'm just curious what the board will say if somebody becomes symptomatic because of the loudspeakers. I know from my own experience when it comes to learning, my daughter's window faces Charles Street. On the weekends when this loudspeaker has been going, the windows have to be closed, she needs to move. I'm also a college student. I was sitting in my backyard. I had to move inside. I don't think it's fair to the people of this community. And again, as government, it should be your job to improve the soundscape for this area, not make it worse. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you wanna
Mr.
leave it?
White, if you feel like you can give it to our clerk, who will copy it and disseminate it to us. To go and drop it off to Ms. McCarthy. Thank you. Yes, sir. Then you can go after him. And when you're here, keep yourself about 3 or 4 inches from the microphone. That way we all hear, and it's the audio picks it up properly too.
My name is Han Bebenakati, 14 Gogun Way. Respected council members, we had 2 very, very disturbing Sundays with the loudspeaker noise blasting in our ears. Probably the crowd and especially the announcer probably were having fun, but trust me, it was a torture for all of us. We have been saying since last 6 months, no loudspeakers. Whether it is permanent or portable doesn't make any difference. We are surprised that the last 2 Sundays, speakers, portable speakers were used there, and it has been very, very disturbing. And we request once again, please take us more seriously. Please don't install or use any speakers there. And today I am submitting a petition signed by residents of Gogun Way as well as Charles Street. Many of us have worked hard to get these signatures, which were willingly done, and many of our neighbors are here. So thanks for listening to us.
Okay, thank you. And again, you can give it to our clerk, Ms. McCarthy, and she'll make sure we get that. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is John Frone, 326 Schilling Drive. Many of us didn't even have a chance to sign that petition. We were unaware of it, so I'm sure we can get a lot more names on that list as well. And as he was saying, in addition to the permanent speakers that you're going to talk about and possibly vote on later, there's now portable speakers going on. And I would like for you to put forth a proposal to ban portable speakers. It really makes no difference. It's so loud, and it makes the crowd noise louder because they're trying to go above the speakers. And I don't know if you really understand how disturbing it is for the residents in the area. And on Schilling Drive, I mean, my house isn't even back to it. I'm on the other side of the street, and I still hear it. It's very loud. I'm going to just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Other people who'd like to speak? Yes. Yes, sir. Come on. Anyone else after? Yeah. Yeah, go on around there. You can go line up behind him if you like.
Yeah, you can queue up behind him.
Hi, Brian Bidlack, 115 Charles Street. It does trouble me to have to come up here once again this evening to discuss this issue. We've been here numerous times in the past several months expressing our concerns regard to a sound system at Middlebush Park. Not this past Sunday, the Sunday prior, I woke. My family was having breakfast at somewhere between 9:30 and 10 a.m. and sound amplification from the park started with music and a broadcast of the football games going on there. It got so bad to the point where we couldn't even have a conversation at our breakfast table over this on a Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. This is just, it's tragic. It's horrible what's happening to this neighborhood in regard to this park and in the sound system. You know, one of the questions I want to ask, it's inevitable. Who approved the use of this temporary sound system the past 2 weeks? I don't think the council has. You know, and that may be a discussion for a later date. But the point is so much has happened in this park from the start, whether it be the removal of the trees, the buffer areas, dealing with the sound issues, the lights. I still have an issue with the lights. I'm patient with that. I hope that's resolved. I've been in contact with Public Works, the Public Works Department. They tell me they'll come out and look at it. It's still an issue for us. It just really boils down to a confidence issue in the community. Is the township going to do right for us? There's no confidence level that this is going to be rectified in a reasonable manner for us because of the past situations with the buffer, with the lighting. So I'm up here to, once again, to express my concerns about it. And it also has been brought to my attention that I believe that this portable system is in violation of the township ordinance. Chapter 167, Section D says, self-contained portable handheld music or sound amplification or reproduction equipment shall not be operated on a public space or public right-of-way in such a manner as to plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet in any direction from the operator between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. My interpretation of that is we have a problem here. We have a problem with the township ordinance. So I just ask that I once again concur. I believe that it doesn't matter the difference between a permanent system or a temporary system. I just don't see how it can be controlled, contained, and we are very concerned about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Catherine Semini, 19 Hunters Crossing Road. Got a long name, I have to write it out slowly. And a long street address. Thank you for listening. Thank you for allowing the public comment. You've seen me over many weeks in this summer. I continue to come, and I will continue to come, and to be involved in the topic of speakers and amplification of sound in the park. I thought there was an agreement, at least in principle, regarding an amplified sound in the park as a disturbance to the neighborhood. I was rather led to believe that this community had convinced you that the sound would destroy the peaceful enjoyment of our homes, and yet, despite all of that, the Recreation Department or Pop Warner, don't know who, certainly disregarded that neighborhood opinion and amplified sound, as you have just heard, pretty extensively over the weekends. The park without amplification will present an intrusion of noise on this neighborhood. Amplification will only exacerbate it. My heart goes out to the families in Charles and Gauguin and the people in the surrounding streets. I am 0.6 miles away, and I could hear the lyrics clearly. By the way, it was disco. I just had to put that in. I am impressed with this council's response to the neighborhood concerning the Catawba Park development, or at least what appears to be the concerns. I trust that there should be no less concern for the Middlebush neighborhood. A neighborhood that was previously quite peaceful and serene. I've come to believe, based on the council's response over the summer and the multiple meetings about the permanent speakers, that the permanent speakers are not going to be allowed. That's what I certainly hope is going to be the outcome of tonight's vote. And I want to thank Councilwoman Sherman and Councilman Kramer for the position of no impact on the peaceful existence of our homes. And I'm here to ask you personally, Councilman Regan, Councilwoman Francois, Councilman Prasad, and Mayor Levine, as you represent the entire of the city, to please recognize that we have a problem here. I hope that you will also adopt the position that there should be no impact on the neighborhood. There should be no change in the neighborhood in which we have lived for 20 years. That we all need to live together in peace and harmony, as they say. We recognize that this park has been developed. It's not going to be undeveloped. Its very presence is going to impact this neighborhood. As other people have talked about, traffic, as it's just simple fact. Noise is going to be inevitable. But children cheering is a lot different. Whistleblowing is a part of sport. There's going to be a lot of whistleblowing heard. But amplification of sound really destroys the peaceful enjoyment of our homes. I request that tonight you not only reject the permanent speakers in the park, but I implore you to set restrictions for any amplified sound. Now, up till today, I was not aware that there actually was an ordinance. So I guess I'm going to implore you to enforce it. And if it is up to us to complain to the police to enforce it, well, we will comply. But I think that the township should have the power, the township council should have the power to enforce it. The recreation department and/or Pop Warner, I don't know if they're really part of the recreation department, clearly need guidelines, and they need them set by the council. I would like to suggest, although I don't know this for a fact, but I've been told, that the baseball commission policy use of speakers, which apparently is a governing body for the baseball group organization here, has a policy that allows speakers to be used, amplification system to be used only at the beginning of the game for the playing of the national anthem, the first game, and then in a matter of a reasonable emergency, important situation, like a child is lost. Tonight's vote is important to this community, but the intention of tonight's vote, a no vote to a permanent speaker system, is really also no amplification, permanent or temporary. We, this neighborhood, will really settle for nothing less. I also want to present some signed petitions that I have. I have about 75 names.
Terrific. Right, thank you, Ms. Mimi. Yeah, why not?
I'm Susan London at 140 Piccadilly Place in Somerset. And I don't have much that I can add to the previous speaker. I think she said things very well. So I'm just going to recap for those who are here who weren't at the meeting when we heard from, let's see, you had a technical expert on sound come and speak to us. And the point was made and agreed at that meeting that the introduction of a sound system, even though you could build one that in and of itself wouldn't contribute to an increase of sound, that in adding to the ambient sound environment, it would make all the people in the stands talk louder. And that it's been proved by the use of the mobile speakers, the portable sound systems, that they in themselves are very loud, and the ambient noise of everyone in the stands added to the noise that the neighborhoods were hearing. And I beg you to consider that while it is okay for the kids to have their games, we support the ability of them to participate in sports. Sound systems are not a prerequisite for the children to enjoy the sports. They're an addition. I don't know why they consider them necessary. They certainly are a big liability for our communities and preventing us from enjoying the peace and quiet that we used to have in our neighborhoods. So I will hope that anything you will do will reduce the noise, both from the portable sound systems, and you will not consider any sort of permanent speaker system that will cause the ambient noise levels to arise above the current levels. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
My name is Rao Nidamarti, 119 Charles Street. I am probably about 100 feet from the end zone of one of the football goalposts, I think. And on a weekend day, if I open in the summertime, let's say the weather is good, I want to open the back windows or patio door, we cannot converse in the house. The noise comes into the house. The only way I can enjoy my house on the weekends, if I want to enjoy, is completely keep the doors closed. That's the only way. And in this weekend, even with the doors closed, with the speakers, I could hear the noise for several hours on a Sunday. So I'm really that close, and then I'm a little disturbed, you know. Yes, I mean, I like to hear the kids play for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 or 4 hours. But if it happens to be like morning from 9 o'clock all the way until evening, at which point can I enjoy my backyard, you know, do some gardening, watering, whatever. I can hear all the calls that are made for the sport saying that move here, move there. Everything is very clear. That's all fine, but it goes on and on and on and on. So my only request is, you know, if a park and if a sports complex is out of town, yes, you could do a lot of those things. But I think this is very much in the town. It's very, very close. It's completely surrounded by hundreds, probably thousands of homes. So definitely we'll all be impacted. So my request is, please do not vote for sound system. You know, the park is built to let the kids play, enjoy the way they are doing today. And I hope if you heed to that, you know, I think it's a good cause. Let's continue, but speakers should not be voted for at all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Connell.
Hello, long time no see. Bill Connell, 25 Spring Street. Mayor, regarding your coffee cup, I'll give you advice that people give me. If you're not pissing somebody off, you're not doing anything important.
Okay.
Okay? I want to talk about the speakers. I want to compliment the council on taking the time. Am I being too loud? Okay. On taking the time.
Intended.
Excuse me?
No pun intended.
No pun intended at all. I compliment the council on taking the time to review this issue thoroughly. And last but not least, at Tuesday's meeting, one of the people that got up and spoke said they felt that they were lied to, okay, that I guess they moved into a neighborhood and did not know the condition or the state of the property next to it. And the statement they were lied to kind of struck me because it's been kind of my experience with government and how I got involved in the first place, and it's important. If you buy a house, you have your house looked at, you find the condition of the house. If you look around and there's a condition outside your house, you really should look at it. You should, if you were that concerned about the property next to you, you should have your lawyer do a little review and understand what is going on. You should never be surprised, okay? Or you can be surprised, but you should at least be knowledgeable. To say that you were lied to by the town is not necessarily true. It means that you didn't necessarily do your homework. That said, I like the discussion, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Good evening. Richard Seaman, 34 Rue Chagall. Before I speak on the topic I came here for tonight, I'd just like to say thank you to the Franklin Township Police Department. Last night, my son is in Boy Scout Troop 195 from St. Matthias, and last night our police department assisted the boys in finishing their first aid merit badge. So we appreciate their taking the time to do that for the boys. It was a wonderful evening. The reason I'm here tonight is to talk about parks. And as some of you know, I had the privilege of serving this township on the Board of Education as an elected member for 2 separate terms, from 2000 to 2003, and then from 2010 to 2013. I bring that up because in my first term, I represented the board at a meeting. And it was a meeting where the town council at the time had hired an engineer, and they wanted to have a community forum to talk about what we're going to put in this beautiful new park that we're going to have. And that was going to be Middlebush Park. Well, for anybody that's paying attention, I went to that meeting in 2001, maybe 2002. The turf fields went in 2012, plus or minus 13. The point I'm trying to raise is it's taken a staggering amount of time to develop a property that was given to the township by a builder upwards of 15, 16 years ago. In the meantime, in all of this time, no other park development has taken place throughout the town, and forgive me if I don't count the skate park. But our town continues to grow. And again, as part of the Board of Ed, I have some knowledge of that. If you look at the Board of Ed's long-range facility plan, you can see the increase in population that our township has experienced over the past, I think it's 80 or 90 years, is in the long-range facility plans on the board's website. You can look at it at your leisure. It just goes to show that the number of children in our township is growing exponentially. They need a place to play. And as disappointing as it was to see that it took 12 to 13 years to develop a piece of property that we've owned outright since the late 90s, it is equally as disappointing when I read the article on Mr. Bowman's site about the Open Space Committee the other day and the motion that they moved to stop park construction. Now, the town council did its due diligence, created a needs assessment, had an engineering firm review what our township has and what it doesn't have, compared to other townships that are similar to us, and has defined a need. And as a member of the Board of Education and as a public servant, I learned a long time ago that the elected official who ignores a written report issued to them that they paid for may rue the day that they ignore it. You have a report. I heard someone speak about a utilization. I believe that information of the utilization of local parks was provided when the needs assessment was developed. I know I'm right, and based on our enrollment growth throughout the township, it is only worse than it was when the needs assessment was developed. Before I came here, I stopped at Middlebush Park. There was approximately 7 soccer teams playing at one time on the 2 fields, because there are only so many hours that once parents who are all volunteers leave work and can come and take their child and participate as a volunteer to coach. They can't do it at 11 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon. But you can hardly get a parking space at Middlebush Park from about 5:30 until 9:30 every night of the week. I'm not quite sure why we need to have a utilization review. We need to drive down the street. Another part of the problem, and I spoke on this about 2 years ago, Mr. Kramer probably remembers, Dunham-Levitt Park, which is around the corner from my house, the two goals are literally falling apart from a lack of maintenance. The grass is awful. The rocks are terrible. It's not safe for the kids. The soccer field at Inman Park is no better. So, when we talk about utilization, when we talk about what do we need, we have to keep in mind that we have some plots of land that are truly unsafe and unplayable. So before, anyone wants to come up and talk about, well, there's no one at Inman Park. Well, I wouldn't want my kids playing in Inman Park. The rocks are unbelievable. I mean, it's dangerous. It really is dangerous because it's unmaintained. And I think that's something I brought up 2 years ago, and it's very frustrating to come back here 2 years later. So I implore you to please continue to work with the needs assessment that you already have. The need is only getting worse. And in case anybody is interested, I have no, if you will, I have no dog in this fight anymore. In 2000, when I joined the Board of Ed the first time, my oldest child was 7. She's now a senior at LaSalle University. None of my kids benefit anymore. They've all aged out of the programs. 2 of them are in college. This is not a personal thing for me. I do this because I enjoy it. I mean, I'm wearing my Franklin soccer stuff. None of my kids play anymore. But I still volunteer because I enjoy it, because I give back to my community, because I believe that you don't just live in a community, you need to be a part of the community. And this is how I've chosen to do it. So I hope that you will continue to work with the needs assessment that you have. You will continue to work diligently, but at the same time listening to the community as you go through. I'll remind everyone that, again, as I was on the Board of Education, please look at the long-range facility plan, because there is a plan in there that provides some other space for potential for soccer fields or football fields or baseball fields down the southern end of town. I know Mr. Kramer knows what I'm talking about. Feel free to look at it. It's there. It's public information. And that may be a more palatable result for the folks that live down that neighborhood. Thank you for your service. I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, come on over.
Good evening, Council. Tara Young, 299 Schillen Drive. When this sports complex was developed, it was to improve the quality of improve the quality of our children here in Franklin Township. Just please, tonight when you vote, consider the quality of life of the surrounding communities of Franklin Township. I understand we're supposed to be voting for permanent speakers. I don't want to reiterate too much as everyone else got up. Are we talking about voting for no for speakers in general or just permanent speakers? Because if we still have to address portable speakers, then how do we proceed from that point? Do we have to proceed from that point? Because I feel like we're beating a dead horse at this point. It'd be nice to just vote no speakers and it's a wrap. And I don't know if you really realize how much noise there is in Franklin Township between, the fireworks and the palace and the celebratory things that go on around the community. I know Saturday I heard from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. loud music. I'm not even sure where it came from, but it was loud and it was echoing all around. And then, of course, Sunday to portable speakers, etc. But, whether it's celebratory things going on, those are just from time to time, and that's wonderful. But when it's every weekend, and beautiful weekends we've been having, no windows open, yada, yada, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating. But it's the quality of the whole town when you think about the noise level, just in general in the town. On any given weekend, at any given point, at any point of this year, at any year. So just consider the quality of everybody's life, not just the children, but the adults, the taxpayers. Not everybody has children. Not everybody has children that play sports. There are a lot of children that are into clubs, that are, they're into their academics. And I would be willing to bet there are more students into academics than there are into organized sports. But, of course, I don't have a study, so I cannot back that up. But, you know, I guess what I'm just trying to say is we all have to live together in peace, and we all deserve a good quality of life in this town. We're here for a reason because we love living here. None of us want to leave. So we need to find some kind of a resolution so we can do that. So please, just no speakers, period. I really would just like to get that off the table altogether. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Patterace, 14 Gregory Lane, Franklin Park. I just have a question, a concern that came up with the gentleman in the windbreaker from the soccer group, that he said, I'm very new to this type of political stuff, that he said there's parks here that aren't even maintained. And I played and grew up in the city of Bernardsville. We had issues with our parks when I was a little kid where they didn't maintain things. And a few of my friends did get injured, getting caught in a hole, playing softball and whatnot. You want to add Catalpa Park, speakers to Middlebush, and you're not even maintaining the parks we have. So I'm just wondering if there's a plan with the $16 million on what you do for maintenance, because this is just, I'm just amazed that you have this money that we take out of our taxes and you're not even maintaining the parks you have. I agree with the land assessment gentleman at that meeting last week that you guys have to finish up what you started. You have to maintain, obviously now, what you already got. And you just have to understand, there really is a need for the rest of these parks. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina Ferrone. I live at 326 Schilling Drive. I just wanted to say a quick comment about people who feel like they've been lied to about, you know, when they've purchased homes. And maybe some of these people have not been living in Franklin for a long period of time. But I've lived here since that plot of land was a beagle club or a horse farm or just a regular park. And not until now has it affected my peaceful enjoyment of this town. And so, you know, whether people feel lied to or not, they have the right to their belief, and their beliefs are valid. And I do believe that people and children need a place to play, but you do not need a sound system to make that happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to remind you, so for record, if you can, jot in your name and address neatly, that would be terrific. If anyone else wants to speak, you can certainly line up over here, too. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. Matthew Sherrick, 207 Sapphire Lane. Thank you very much for the opportunity to view my opinions. And I just wanted to go on record, even though we're not voting on Catalpa Park. I wanted to go on record about my views on the park and state it publicly. And when we bought our property in that section of Franklin Park, we bought it for the beauty and the peacefulness of the open space. We paid taxes for open space. No one should feel, when they bought property in that area, that there was some kind of guarantee that there was going to be a sports complex with 300 to 400 car parking lot, cricket fields, soccer fields, basketball courts, squash, tennis courts. No one bought it for those reasons. No one said, let's go live next to a park with a 300 to 400 car parking lot, 300 to 400 more cars on South Middlebush on top of the traffic we already have. Let's help make extinct box turtles. Let's make extinct any other creature that might be there. Let's have extra water runoff so when we have another Sandy. Let's add another sound system so we can have another heated discussions about sound systems, lights, added crime. No one bought the property for those reasons. The open space money was supposed to be for open space, not development. No one bought the homes for those reasons. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Gary Singer, 1 Terhune Court, Franklin Park. I also am a member of the soccer board. I've been involved with soccer since about 2005. I was here when we did the utilization study, and it was put up on the board, and we discussed it, and we passed it, and that's how we got Middlebush Park. I brought my daughter when she was in 2nd grade and my team of girls to come here and support that for 3 or 4 years. What I'd hate to see is, because we have some concern about a couple parks, that we put a moratorium on building open space and parks in other areas. We need it. I still coach. My daughter's aged out also. I'm here just because of the love of the kids. I still coach. I'm at Middlebush Park 1 night a week. There's probably 100 to 150 kids that utilize that park on that day. I assume that there's probably 100 to 150 each day. We have about 1,000 kids in the program. There's another 400 that are utilizing other parks. I don't know which parks or whatever, but I can tell you, I live down in the southern section, and when my kids were small, I had a hard time finding a park to practice at. I would go to Franklin Park School, and that field was horrible. There was huge holes in it. There was a bunch of rocks. Kids would skin their knees. The nets were horrible. Delar Park, there were no nets. There was just a baseball backstop, and the grass was never cut. And at this point, I understand that it's a little bit iffy as far as the people that utilize that park. I would urge the council, not to put a moratorium on everything. If we have a problem and we have a discussion and it's valid with Catalpa Park or with the sound system, we should discuss it. But a moratorium on total building, I believe, is a little bit of overkill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
My name's Adam Kazubal, 8 Angel Place. I'm here also on behalf of the Franklin Township Soccer Club. I have the unique privilege of being one of the co-presidents, and on behalf of the over 1,000 children that we have participating in the program just this current fall, we would first like to thank the council for everything that you've been able to give us, provide for us, and do for us as a community. As my colleagues have stated, we have a very serious concern about putting a moratorium on developing any further parks within the township. The fields that we have now are unsafe. They're overutilized, and we can't shut any of them down to allow for any kind of development on them. I coach a youth soccer group in 1st grade. We practice over at Dunham-Labed Park. As one of my colleagues stated, the goals are completely unsafe to the point where I had to mention to other coaches that they can't utilize them anymore. They are literally going to fall down and kill a child. We've brought these attentions to authorities within the township, and yet they still stand. We need to continue to develop further parks so that we can take the opportunities when we have them to shut down parks such as Dunham-Labed and Inman Park and some of the other parks within the communities. Shut them down, level out the land, let the grass grow, make them safe for the children. This is a serious concern for us, and all of the families within the soccer community stand by that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I am Tom Moran from Hunter's Crossing, and this has been interesting, I have to say. We're finally hearing some good arguments for and against. The against of the speakers, I think that's plainly evident. I'd like to thank whoever had the idea to use portable speakers. I think you've proved our point that you're. Thank you. You had an expert come in here and talk about maybe you could construct a permanent system and angle them in such a way to protect the rest of the community. You take the temporary speakers, throw all out the window. So if we're going to have a vote, it's speakers or no speakers. I also agree with the gentleman that just spoke and a couple before. The need for parks is not the question. Because I'm opposed to speakers doesn't mean I'm opposed to children or soccer fields. It's a great park. We just need balance. We went overboard, okay? You don't need 27 fields in one park, you know? Have 4 or 5 in each park. The lights, maybe they're needed, maybe they're not. They're certainly being used. But you can't take something that you need and jam it down the throats of people who just happen to be standing there when you came along. I've lived in this town almost 29 years. How many people here are against the speakers?
I'm going to ask you to direct all your comments
Against
to
the
council.
speakers. If you're against the speakers, raise your hand. And if you've been living here for 5 years or more, 5 years or less, put your hand down. 10 years or less. 20 years or less. 25 years or less. We didn't just move in here. We didn't buy these yesterday and are shocked that there's a park next door. We're asking you to use common sense and balance in the way that you judge how you support the community. Support the kids, support the parks, but support our peace and quiet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
My name is Ellen Vastola. I live at 43 Norwich Place, which is just behind some trees behind Gauguin. I've been coming, as the council knows, to a number of these meetings. I became very aware of this situation thanks to Councilwoman Sherman sending out that postcard. You have my vote. So I just wanted to lend my voice. I'm a single professional. I had a concern, you woke me up to it, I don't go back to sleep, I continue, I research, I sent a lot of information and my thoughts to the council over the last several months. I'm not going to go away, these owners aren't going to go away, and I love the man who said, raise your hand for however, I can't believe I've been living here over 25 years. I grew up in Piscataway, I'm a Jersey girl. I grew up in suburbs. I had a nice, yard to grow up in, and I had local parks. And I've never really given that kind of thought to what went into the parks. Who planned them? Where did you put them? But now it's become very much of a concern of mine because I'm thinking this could be impacting my quiet, pastoral, bucolic way of life. I love living in my little apartment condo. I don't need to impress anybody. I don't need to have a fancy schmancy car. I don't need a lot of square footage. I love being able to open up my windows, have the breezes blow through, and to hear the birds and the crickets chirp. That's all I want to hear. And for like 27 years, that's all I've heard. And I feel very blessed. I feel blessed that I moved across the Raritan River and I came to Franklin Township. So that's why I want to lend my voice to all the voices of my neighbors, people who I know live closer. But I have to say, I love, and I said this before, I love my Sunday walks from where I live back up through the walkway that I wasn't happy about that you put in through the woods that I get to look at, up onto Gauguin and then onto Charles. I love that walk to the library. I use the library. I mean, I'm a single professional. I don't have kids. I paid, for all the schools and the increase of the library and this and that. It's my civic duty. I live here, and I want to support all of my neighbors, for all of us to have a good quality of life. And for me, I think a lot of times that means bringing it back down to that common denominator, that lowest level of disturbance to each other, where we're considerate of each other. Because heck, we live in New Jersey, the most densely populated state in the nation. And when you get people up against each other, we've got elbows, we're making noise. And to me, when you said you were going to be making a park, I'm thinking quiet, bucolic use of the park, kids chasing a kickball, whatever. I didn't think it would be sound amplification. And I have noticed, even when, these last few Sundays, I've opened my windows, oh, shut them again. It wasn't that loud. I'm going, wait a minute, I was not aware that we approved a portable sound system. And as that one man said, it was a good, I think, acid test. I didn't even think it was a great trial. I'm a scientist. Dr. Chase knows, you set up an experiment. You have a hypothesis. You come up with materials and methods and a protocol. We kind of got this little protocol. We had a trial. And people started calling in, and people are distressed. And this is going to happen throughout the rest of football season. So I just want to beseech you to think about all of us who live within that less than a mile, less than half a mile zone around this sports complex. I have nicknamed it Meadowlands Junior. I didn't know that's what was going to happen. I just thought a nice park. I like to walk. I got my running shoes on. I would be walking there, and seeing everybody enjoying themselves. But, I think the sound system, as we've said before, is a want as opposed to a need. We don't need it. I don't even think the kids think they need it. They just want to go and play and have a good time. That's all, they want. So somebody's making a want out of this or a need out of this, and we don't really need it. And another thing, too, I didn't research this, and I love to Google, but I'm thinking probably with sound, intermittent sounds that fluctuate, that are not constant, I think are more disruptive than that constant, like, low-level buzz or hum. This is what we have, because you're not going to have a crowd maintaining constant noise that our brains and our ears will eventually tune out. This is sporadic bursts of sound, whistles, all different kinds. It's a variety, which, as I've heard from my neighbors who live closer, is quite disruptive. We should not, on these beautiful autumn days, be having to close our windows and picking up, getting up off our, our decks and going indoors. To me, this is like one of my favorite seasons. So we should be enjoying them as much as possible. So I want to lend my voice to all of that of my neighbors. And, who said you can't fight City Hall? We're all here. We're all speaking up. This is the Democratic or Republican process. We're taking part, and please listen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm here again, just like a lot of my neighbors.
Your name and address, please.
My name is Roma Malkana. I'm in 3 Gorgan Way, and I'm at the far end of Gorgan Way, away from the Middle Bush Sports Complex. I think we've had a lot of stuff repeated today, which you all have heard, and therefore I will just say ditto, ditto, ditto to everything that has been said against the speakers, so that I'll try not to repeat it. This last weekend, when I heard all the noise, the thought that came to my mind was, I wish I had invited the council members over to be here in my backyard or in my kitchen, because yes, we do close our patio doors and windows to block out the noise, and I'm at the far end. And maybe they would have come and they would have had the experience of what we're talking about. I only realized about a month ago with the mention of the portable speakers that the vote was being made only against permanent speakers. I thought we were talking about no speakers of any kind. So I'd just like to clarify that in that one sentence, that I am, and my family is opposed to any speakers. I'd like to talk a little bit about all the township dollars that have been spent already in removing all those beautiful, gorgeous trees that were at the far end of Gorgan Way. Thank God I still have mine in my backyard. But I feel for the people that own the houses at that end. And now we're talking, we spend the money on removing those trees. Now we're talking about different kinds of fences and barriers being put up. That's more money. But it's not going to keep out the noise. So therefore, if we're talking only about speakers today, then no speakers again. But why don't we talk about money? Why is talking about money taboo? Why am I constantly being told, don't discuss what's happened to the value of your homes? Why not? What's wrong with that? Everybody here has spent their lives building up their one big main asset, our biggest investment, our home, the roof over our heads. And we can't just run away and leave those homes. But our hearts break that during the last few years, we have, for various factors, but right now this is the factor, the most immediate factor that's affecting the sales of our homes, the speed at which they sell, the amount of traffic we get from the realtors, interest in buyers to come and even look at our houses, and the value. How would you feel if you were told your house value has gone down by $150,000 to $200,000? That's a big, huge chunk of money. And I'm going to speak this along if I can. Right now, we're standing here debating all these things. For the last 6 months, we've been wanting to be here so that you would all hear us. And we thought a month ago that we were heard, the vote was going to be done, and this whole thing was going to be over. But now I'm hearing that after the vote, there might still be portable speakers. So we're still spending taxpayers' money standing here debating over this issue. And I'm sure that money can be spent in a lot more other positive ways, whether it's maintaining other parks, whether it's other recreation activities. And as one lady pointed out, not every child is into sports. So we're not really catering to the needs of every child in the township. I think the residents have made themselves very loud and clear about all their concerns. If we go back over the meetings, if you just take a second look at them, and I want to thank all of you for tonight, for the night you stayed till midnight listening to us. I hope that doesn't happen to you tonight. And I hope that your vote will be for against all speakers, any kind. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. I'll try to be brief, but
Pull
I
the
want you to,
microphone up a little.
I want you
And
to
anyone
know.
else who likes to speak, I'm sorry, just to interrupt, can start to certainly come up if you haven't spoken before.
I also am against the speakers, and I just want the council to realize
I'm
that.
sorry. Once more, your name and address.
Frida Russo, 93 McGuffey.
Thanks.
I am also against the speakers. I am currently struggling with the music that comes from Stagehouse. To just bring it to the front of your minds again, it's Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night where the music sometimes is so loud. Again, I have to go inside, close my doors, shut my windows, because I just don't want to hear some of the music. It's not that I'm against it. I'm not against the restaurant. I like Stagehouse. But, and again, it's not even every weekend. So there's inconsistencies. And, that's Like, I wonder if there were portable speakers, maybe one weekend things would be quiet, maybe one weekend things would be extra loud. Again, I wish that there was some mechanism in place to have this decibel level be at the stage house, like constant and low, so that I could enjoy the outdoors with my family. Second thing is, my mom is a resident of Spring Hills, and I happened to be there Sunday bringing her laundry back. I went into her bedroom and could hear cheering and the loudspeaker. Her windows happened to be open. A caregiver opened the windows to air the room out, and I was just really surprised. I don't mind the cheering. I get it. I have kids. Sports are great. But I was just really surprised. And even the cheering was like muffled. It has like a muffled sound to it. But whoever was on the loudspeaker, that came through loud and clear. And I was just really disappointed to hear that on a Sunday morning. So now it's Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning, and all day. My last question is, we have 2 fields at the schools in town. The high school has speakers at the football field, and the middle school, where I believe Pop Warner practices, and I believe Pop Warner has played there for years. So my question is, if a team really, really wants speakers, why not use the fields that already exist? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Bob Maggio. I'm at 26 Cedarbrook Drive. I've been here a couple of times already. It's nice that every seat in the council has been taken here, so I can actually say a few things again that I've said in the past. I live behind soccer fields at Sampson G. Smith School. It started up again a couple of weeks ago, the normal, annual, all the weekend activity. There is no amplification there. I hear the children. It's pleasant. What I really hear mostly, though, are the incredibly loud, screaming adult men and women. It's unbelievable. They supersede what the children, what they're doing. It's constant. You hear certain voices. It's just grating on people that live in that area. I'm sure this is happening at Middlebush Park. Any kind of amplification, portable, permanent, air horns, blow horns, anything that you have that will amplify any kind of noise or make any kind of sound, even if it's not human voice, is a severe intrusion to anyone's quality of life. We're living there permanent. These people, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, they come for a game for their son or daughter, and then they get to leave. But we're stuck staying there. We're stuck the whole time for the entire weekend, even after dusk when the park is supposed to be closed, as one person had mentioned at another meeting, dawn to dusk for parks, even though there are lights there. And I was talking to a family that I'm getting to know quite well, who live on Franklin Boulevard, and they live, I guess it's not that far from Rutgers Stadium. Rutgers Stadium is an enclosed structure, but they hear the crowd doesn't. It's okay. It's the amplification of the human voices, and that's what they hear. That's an enclosed structure. I'm the only one that seems to represent Cedarbrook Drive. There was another person that got up and spoke at one of the previous meetings prior meetings, and hasn't come back because they said, well, they're going to, you can vote however they're going to vote, and you can't, there's a lot of apathy is what I'm trying to say in some of the people that I spoke. They don't think it's worth coming here and speaking. I do, because it's really important to all of us that we maintain the quality of life for us. I've mentioned that none of you live as close as I do, or all of these other people. I'm 0.3 miles from the park. And I'm sure that you like to go home and not have to hear the constant noise that a lot of these people have been describing from this weekend and the past couple of Sundays. And I'm sure it's important to you. You work very hard, and we're gratified of that. But you also want your peace and quiet when you go home on a Sunday morning, on a Saturday, late afternoon. I don't really have that much more to add here. It's rehashing, this is the same things that have been going over, but I just want to say, I just hope that this never happens at the, SGS fields, because it's pretty loud, and I don't, what these people are going through. And there was one gentleman that said they were 100 feet from the goal line. Well, I did look at Google, and I thought it was 60 feet, actually, from their property line, the corner of the end zone. That's pretty darn close. I'm 30 feet from the property line. From my tree line is 30 feet, and then you go into the soccer fields. So that's all very, very close. So I'm just letting you know that we're in a concentrated area, and there's a lot going on in this township. And please respect the people that have spoken today to have a peaceful life and a good quality of life that Franklin Township has to offer. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Maggio.
Yeah, I'll put her down for that.
Yeah.
One speaker at a time, please.
You know that was going to happen. I figured. Hi, my name is Derek Franz. I'm from 28 Cartier Drive. Thank you, Council, for hearing everyone, and hopefully she doesn't, start going nuts at it. Not that I specifically had anything that I wanted to address about the sound system, although I agree, I'm not from that particular part of town. I agree that I don't think a sound system is functional to presenting a park and needing a park. But I did want to talk about how I don't doubt by the gentleman who had mentioned that his whole soccer team had showed up in support of. I don't doubt for a moment that any recreational sport could not bring in by the troves their teams to support a field for their benefit. But kind of similar to what the gentleman was saying before, their need is for 2 hours, every other night or something like that, or however often it happens, whereas these things are built on our communities and directly impact where we live. Beyond the hours of when the soccer needs its maximum capacity throughout the township. Regarding the needs assessment report, and it seemed like a consistent comment even from the soccer teams that the fields need to be maintained. The needs assessment identified $1.9 million in regards to what's maintenance is required in our township for fields. I would agree that that should happen first before considering anything else further. And then on top of that, there's no. You don't ever design something, speaking as an engineer, you don't ever design something for the maximum capacity that you need. You utilize everything that you have to possibly make it work. We have existing Board of Education fields that are not used during the time periods in which the soccer fields of our township are used. And I think a better effort would stand to work with the Board of Ed to find a way to utilize their spaces as well, so we don't have the need to have additional soccer fields when, after the peak moment, it's no longer needed beyond that time. And then you're on top of that building the actual parks on top of people's homes. and then running into issues where people have to deal with hearing that, oh, we have lighting, oh, we have sound systems that we want. Just, it would negate all of the need for those elements. So that's all I really wanted to summarize and say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone else who would like to speak? You can be in line over here if you haven't spoken before, certainly. And maybe you want to, when you're done with that, you can hand them the pad. That way they can, the clipboard, that way they can start getting it ready.
Neil Stratman, 21 Gauguin Way. There you go. So my wife and son and I really love spending time in our backyard. It's kind of like our oasis where we garden, we talk, we have fun together. We like to have friends over. This football field and the noise coming from it really makes it impossible for us to do that. Sunday was such a slap in the face to all of us who have talked about how much this noise has been bothering us. The announcer was incredibly loud for several hours. Even inside we can hear this noise. I really beg this council to consider the needs of the residents surrounding Middlebush Park and to vote down any type of sound system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mary Ann Moran, 5 Hunters Crossing. I guess I'm here. I've been to 3 meetings now. I'll say it's pretty much the same conversation and comments that you're hearing at all of the meetings. Pretty clear to me it's most people are against, or everyone who's gotten up to speak regarding the speakers is against the speakers in any form, no amplified sound. I'm curious who wants the speakers, because there's no one here asking or supporting why the speakers should be there. So not really sure why the issue is on the table. Who wants the speakers and why are they not here explaining why it's so important to have them on the site? All we're hearing is how it's impacting negatively and concerns and complaints against them. So that's my question to you. Who wants it? Why are we even pursuing it? Why have we not resolved it and already voted on it? How many more weeks of the same conversations do you need to have to make a decision? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Bo Shu. I recently bought a property on 12 Gauguin Way, June 30th to be precise. I doubled my taxes, literally doubled my taxes, and my quality of life has gone down. I just want to address the council. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to address every single member who's present today. We had 3 members missing last time. So I just want to repeat some of the things I want to know. Number 1 is very eloquently addressed by people. Who wants this? We don't know who wants it. But I want to give you the experience, the terrible experience that me, my wife, my family, and our neighbors experienced this Sunday. We actually had to call a police officer to the backyard, and my neighbor, Dr. Han, was there. And it was a subjective discussion, right? It wasn't objective, so I brought this out. This is a sound meter. It's not calibrated, but it gives you the decibel level, right? So we need to have an objective discussion, a data-driven, as opposed to sound level, this level, that level. This gives you a reading, and it was clearly above 65. The sound expert we had in here, and there was also the police officer mentioned that the previous week he had gone over, I think there was one of the residents who complained, and they turned down the portable speaker. Now, whether this is brilliant or sleazy, you can take it, but portable speakers or fixed speakers, it's still noise pollution. And I just ask you, I would like to invite any member of the council, when this thing is going on, please come back to my backyard, sit at the patio, have a glass of wine with me, and see whether you'll enjoy it. I don't think any of you respected council members will agree that this is good sound. it's a good quality of life. If you sit in my backyard and my neighbor's backyard and listen to this incessant loudspeaker, and I quote loud, it's not a speaker. The purpose of this is to rise above the level of the ambient sound measured in this one. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who has not spoke yet? Want to say anything?
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one raising their hand, I make a motion to close the public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Okay, that was public discussion number 8 on the agenda. So here, the next few items are council comments, where we'll go through, each of us can comment on anything. Some people may say something or wait till our specific discussion. Along with the township manager, he'll have his comments. And then we'll have the council discussion item specifically on the South Middlebush Park, on the Middlebush Park sound system. So, for council comments, I guess we'll start this way this time. Councilwoman Rosalind Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to get some clarity here. I have several things I want to respond to that were said by the people who came up to the microphone. Are you asking me to save those comments for our discussion?
I guess let's see the council consensus. Do you want to save any Middlebush stuff till we get to that? Or just do it now? Can I ask for consensus?
Discussion now?
I mean,
If we can move, I mean, obviously, these people want to hear what we have to say. If we can move through council comments, you know, and announce our little event, our events quickly, that's fine. But clearly, they're here for Middlebush Park, and a few of them are here for Catalpa Park.
Okay.
So we could move
So-
the council discussion.
You wanna-
forward.
Mayor, I'd motion to move the council discussion item.
if it's consensus, we can just do our council comments without South Middlebush. That way we'll discuss that all in one time. Is that just going to?
Is that what I'm hearing? We're not going to make our comments?
Why don't we move up the agenda item for council discussion
Discussion
on
item.
South Middlebush
Just want
Park?
to do
Yeah, that's,
Let's
do
I'll
the
make a
sound-
motion to move the
move that up.
discussion item.
Seconded.
Move it up.
Middlebush.
We can make
Middle-
all our comments.
Middlebush Park next.
Okay,
And-
all in favor?
Aye.
So that means all other comments are to be given later?
Yes.
Right.
Fine.
Yes.
So
Fine.
what
Okay.
happened was, we're going to move council discussion of Middlebush Park now, and after that will be our council comments on other things. So,
Okay.
Councilwoman Sherman, if you still want the floor to start, fine.
Yeah,
If not,
yeah.
okay, go right
Thank
ahead.
you. Okay. I have a couple of things. First, I happened to come across a quote in the agenda today that was part of the presentation by Eric Zwerling, who is the president of Noise Consulting out of Rutgers. He's the gentleman that came here who was the expert. On the front page of his report is his view of sound and how it affects people. One should use his own property in such a manner as not to injure that of another. I think that very clearly says that what we should be considering is the injury that we may be causing others as a result of what's going on in Middlebush Park. I also heard the comments from the soccer people saying, keep building parks, keep building fields. We need them. Now, I have great respect for everyone who has a problem with parks being in their backyard. But when the design of Catalpa Park was presented, and this audience was filled with representatives from that community, this council actually made some changes to that plan. They decided to move some of those fields elsewhere or eliminate them. So tell me, why is that need being, if the need for fields is so great and we must have fields, why are the people in one park area being given the courtesy of understanding how we are going to affect their quality of life, while the people in the Middlebush Park area, for some reason, it falls on deaf ears? Maybe we need a speaker system. I certainly would like to come and hear what goes on at your home at some point, and I will ask for an invitation to do that. And I think other council people would like to hear that. They should hear it. Some people have said, some council people have said they've been there and it was perfectly fine, and there seems to be a feeling that everyone is okay with the sound system that they heard over the weekend, the portable system. If that's not the case, then this council needs to hear that, because they seem to be under the impression that everyone is very pleased with the way things are going right now. What else did I have here? If our other parks are not in good condition, and I have no way of knowing the answer to that, perhaps I'll ask our township manager to comment on that. Wouldn't it make a lot of sense to fix some of those fields to take the pressure off of all of the other fields that we're building for millions of dollars? So I would like to find out if the comments I heard tonight about rocks and holes is correct.
Well, I won't dispute whether it's correct or not, but that is one of the issues that's raised both by the Franklin Township Soccer Club and by the needs assessment, is the fact that there's an inadequate number of natural turf fields in this town to rotate the use of fields. So as one of the members of the soccer club mentioned, overuse results in conditions that currently exist. Well, you can't remove fields from the inventory to repair them, because we don't have other fields to move the programs to, so that the fields can be rested for periods of time to allow the grass to grow back. So that's the problem with natural turf fields, and the reason why it's not, I heard a gentleman mention earlier about sound engineering practice and utilize what you have before you go beyond what you have. The issue here is that when you bring into play a natural substance, grass, when the grass becomes dirt and it begins to erode the field and the stones that are underneath the turf begin to come to the surface, the only way to rehabilitate that field is to remove it from service. But we can't remove it from service right now because we don't have enough fields to move the program to allow that field to rest for a period of time. That's the issue with the condition of the fields that the gentleman mentioned. As far as the equipment at those fields, that's the first that is being brought to my attention, and there is money appropriated in the budget to repair and replace those pieces of equipment. So I'll be speaking with the Recreation Director and the Public Works Director tomorrow about that particular issue. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the turf. Why is it the way it is? That's the reason why it is the way it is.
Okay, thank you. And I go back to the comment. If we're so desperate for fields, why did we remove them from Catalpa? What was the criteria for doing that? I'm not asking that answer. So, there seems to be a separate set of criteria for one area versus another. I have only two other comments. I've heard the comment made that this is not a sports complex, it is a park. Well, guys, if it walks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, it's a duck. It's a sports complex. And just one comment to the gentleman who asked why we don't use the Board of Education fields. We had tried that. We did. We went to them. We asked if we could work together on this, and unfortunately, their insurance issues, I'm not sure what the issues were. Certainly, they were not very receptive to the idea. It's not that we didn't try, but we did. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vornlocker?
And I'd just like to add to that. Actually, and certainly the gentleman who lives on Cedarbrook Drive can attest to this, we do utilize the Board of Education property in that particular circumstance. Sampson G. Smith School property is, in fact, Board of Education property, and the soccer club uses that extensively. As do they, and for practice purposes, just about every green space that's available is utilized by one soccer team or another. In fact, my IT director, who coaches a team here in Franklin Township, has his children practice at McAfee Road School, where there is no soccer field, but due to the lack of soccer fields in Franklin Township, he's forced to practice there because it's open green space. Put up cones, and their younger kids, that's how they practice. So the Board of Education properties are utilized for soccer. The only one that I'm aware of that's not currently being utilized is the high school. And even there has been some use. It's just not been as extensive as we would like, but there's some pretty intensive use of those fields by the Board of Education and the high school teams. So that is what this situation is with the Board of Ed.
Okay, other members of the council to discuss this?
I'm sorry?
Oh, anyone else wanted council discuss this?
No, we're going down the line.
Oh, you want to go down the line? Okay. All right, Councilman Basanella then.
Discussion item, okay.
Well, I'm intrigued with the discussion having to do with the maintenance in other parks and enhancements. I don't want to get too far off the subject because then nobody here is looking at what we're going to do relevant to the loudspeaker situation. But I will say, having worked on that needs assessment study for quite some time, that if I remember right, it polled either at the top or the second highest desire by residents as far as how we should be spending our money was to maintain and enhance existing parks. So probably a conversation for another day, but I just wanted to address that because that came up several times tonight. And I think somewhere along the line, the last 3 years, legitimate desires, but desires nonetheless to build out Middlebush and multiply fields, which we'd need, kind of left the maintenance and enhancement of existing parks to a lesser priority, unfortunately, which wasn't in line with the needs assessment. We got some fields, and we made a lot of progress. Now we have this issue, so I don't want to get too far off into the other issue, but for what it's worth, there were some approved allocations approved last council meeting, and I look forward to some coming future council meetings having to do more with enhancements and maintenance, which is done routinely, but some maintenance that would be used from open space funds or relevant to the way the needs assessment study says we need to focus on it. As far as the sound system, we'll see how the vote comes tonight. I think you can't quiet and calmness is a value, no matter what it is, whether it's soccer or any activity. Understanding also that people get excited, and whether it's people yelling at the game, whether it's a parent, whether it's a child, and I could understand people want to hear excitement. A loudspeaker, it's a tough issue here. I don't personally think we need a permanent system. I think if we do look, and I'm sure the council people have comments on it, about a portable system, and that's a vague statement, portable system. Let me explain a little bit. If there is a way that some announcements, Star Spangled Banner, whatever it is, could be done at certain games at certain times, in a reasonable way that can be absolutely controlled, and that's a big if. And I'm open to exploring that, but as far as the permanent system and running a system from 9 in the morning till 5 or 6 at night, no, I'm not in favor of that. So, not to be vague, but I hopefully we'll get past at least the main issue tonight, and hopefully soon resolve all issues. And this isn't just about Middlebush Park. Obviously, everybody here's biggest concern is Middlebush Park. But we have parks, we have open space, and we are, and I hope we do, build out some more fields and parks over the next several years. So this speaker issue, how people are allowed to amplify sound, whether it's a special event, whether it's an ongoing sports league, it may seem like we keep beating a dead horse with Middlebush, but a lot of what we do here will kind of set guidelines and give council a direction and staff a direction. So it may seem like we're just spending an incredible amount of time on Middlebush, but the issue really is township-wide. So with that, I'm done, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
A lot of it has already been said. As you know, I was for any kind of a high-tech solution that would actually improve upon our sound ordinance rather than, make it worse. And I still believe that that should have been explored. But amplification of sound is something that we cannot really, if it's impacting upon people's quality of life, it shouldn't be there. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, where we stand. I think the high-tech solution still should be explored, and, that could be something that could be done at a later time. But, we have sound ordinances, and I thought that amplification covered both portable and whatever permanent. I didn't even make a distinction. But then later on I found there was a distinction. And I was even told that portable systems have been used for the past year at Middlebush, and nobody said anything about it. And so there were no complaints. And then on top of that, there's permanent systems. So it's a moot point. Sound amplification is sound amplification. It doesn't matter. And as a result, I think we will have to look at it. And it also turned out that there's a portable ordinance that is actually in conflict with our sound ordinance, and the two don't synchronize. So I'd like our lawyer, township attorney, to actually review the two and see if we can, find some synchronization between the two. And I think we have a township-wide sound ordinance that should be adhered to, and we should try and improve upon it if we can in terms of the amount of sound, and set a standard for the rest of the country. And in that sense, technology is there. It can be done, but we've got to figure out how to do it, and explore it and see if we can implement it. So that's all I have to say about the sound system. But the need for parks is there. We did a study, and from a personal experience, I've lived here for 40 years, and in that sense, I raised 2 kids here. I'm guilty as charged as far as being a soccer dad in Sampson G. Smith, but back then, in the 70s, you could find parking at Sampson G. Smith. Later on, it got so crazy that you couldn't even find parking there. And, other places would take up some of that overcrowding of Sampson G. Smith. But the BOE has not been very cooperative with us in terms of, use of the facilities on the weekends, which is when the demand is there, or evenings. So we are looking at ways to take care of that. And especially the southern part of the town has no parks. And we've brought in an extensive amount of cluster homes around Route 27. And that has created a huge need for parks. And if we don't provide parks, what are the kids to do? And we've had shootings in the past we seem to forget, and we need to have our kids productively employed. And also, childhood obesity is a problem. So those are things that we all have to balance up here. It's not just the sound ordinance. Of course, we'll keep your quality of life in mind, and anytime there is input, that will be taken into consideration. This council, or any council for that matter of fact, hasn't built a park in Franklin Township for a very long time, and they just kicked the ball down the road and never made those tough decisions. But since the need was so great, we had to do something. And, you know, but it's something that we do collectively, and you're as much a part of that decision-making as we are. So we listen to you. This is a democracy, and thank God it is. And, you know, we're at war, but, you know, that's what we're trying to preserve is our way of life, and we will do so. But, you know, I hope there won't be any more apathy. I'm glad that all of you turned out, but let it not be just for one issue. Do stay involved. This one will be resolved tonight or very soon, but hopefully we can move on. So those are my comments to all your comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
I'm going to be brief. I have to say that I'm just so sick and tired of talking about this. I have to be honest. I do appreciate the fact that you guys have come out over and over and over, but I also think it's a travesty that we've let this go on for as long as we have. I must say, and I'm going to preface this in a way that I haven't done it before. When I was mayor back in 1996 and 1997, I was all about teen recreation. I implemented a teen recreation program. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not for the youth. That teen recreation program still exists today. So if I were to say I have a legacy, that would be my legacy if I was to die today. So I want to put that on the table right now. I also want to say that 7 years ago, I founded, and I'm currently the leader of the Franklin Youth Initiative, which is addressing the needs of the youth in our township today. I'm very proud of that. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you guys probably don't know about. We have a teen drop-in center. We have a need for youth recreation. I get that. I understand that. It's something that we need. I support the youth. I support recreation. I support balance. I support the need for recreation. I support the need for parks. Let's be clear about this. But the one thing that I think about when I think about a park and I think about an area where people live, it is quality of life. When I go to the park, I want to walk, I want to feel nature, I want to feel pristine, I want to feel, quiet, peace. That's my concept of a park. Not noise, not amplification of noise, be it permanent, be it portable. That to me does not equate to what a park is supposed to be like. So I just have to be honest. I apologize for, one of the things I feel like you have elected us to be your leaders, to govern, to make decisions, to weigh in all the factors, which I think we have, to listen to you, to address your concerns, and adhere to what the community needs. And so I've been certainly behind the scenes. I know I haven't spoken out very, very publicly because I've been trying to weigh this whole thing and make sure that we balance the quality of life for everybody, for all the needs of all the youth, for the people in that area as well as all over the township. And I always do wear my at-large township council hat. I always have it on. I never take it off. And so the bottom line for me is we're going to move this forward tonight. And we appreciate your input, and I apologize to you personally, publicly and personally, for what we have caused you as far as the pain and agony and having you come out for the last 4 months. I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Ted Chase.
Oh, I thought you were next in line, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I often always speak last, let people have their piece first, so. It's a council discussion. We're not going to end after 9 of us speak. We can keep on going.
He wants you to speak.
Well, I was still trying to.
Well, go to the next person. You're not ready to speak? You want to move on?
Well, I'm not going to give up my opportunity to speak. I just thought I had a few more minutes to collect my thoughts. And I think
We could come back if you like.
really we have the immediate question, which is the speakers in Middle Bush Park, and perhaps the larger question of how we shall place our part any future athletic fields that are to be constructed. We had the needs assessment. We were told that our athletic field situation was perhaps 50% of what other comparable communities had. Therefore, we ought to be building more. What the needs assessment didn't tell us is where we should build parks and what particular communities wanted in the way of athletic fields, etc. Councilwoman Sherman said, in effect, why was Catalpa being allowed to, the Catalpa neighbors being allowed to not have athletic fields there, whereas by implication, you know, neighbors of Middle Bush Park already have one. The only thing I can say is we've learned by experience. We've had a better procedure now in laying out the full plan that was developed by engineers to the public before any commitments were made, and the people around Catalpa Park rejected that, and we're looking at other ways of meeting the need, hopefully in places that will meet much less opposition. But Middle Bush Park, I think there's been a certain degree of mission creep along the way. Back when we started, I didn't hear anything about a concession stand. There was talk of maybe one synthetic turf field, but it's grown and grown as we've gone along. And I think this is the place to stop. I had been led to believe that the use of portable speakers there for several games this season and all of last season had passed without notice by the neighbors. Tonight I have heard differently, and I think therefore I would have to oppose portable speakers as well as permanent installation of speakers there. We are responsible to the people. We are responsible to the people of the whole township, of course, but we have to look at the impact of what we propose to do upon the immediate neighbors of what we propose to do, and we have to figure out the best ways of doing things. I can't pass without alluding to some of the comments about what people were told about their surroundings. Councilwoman Eberly, my predecessor, lived on trying to think of the name of the street. It's not Magellan, but the next one over, in fairly near Catalpa. And when she bought her house, it looked out the back on farm fields. And she was told by the realtor, she asked about that. She was told by the realtor, that's in Green Acres. That won't be developed. Well, It was not in green acres, and it was developed. Moral of this is don't believe what the real estate agent tells you. I do have enough faith in our township employees that I think they would tell you the exact status of properties neighboring you if you came in and asked. And perhaps that's a warning to, it's probably to people who are not here, who might be impacted by some other development. But I also want to refer to, this is generally referred to as the Open Space Fund. It was approved by the voters of the township in 1998 and with an increase later to provide funds not only for open space purchase, and for the first dozen years it was really used only for the purchase of open space and the purchase of development rights to keep farms being farmed, but it was approved from the beginning to support development of active recreation. So that is there, and it can be used for that purpose. And more recently, that is what it has mainly been used for, in part because we have bought a lot of open space, and the remaining major properties either are, well, basically are not for sale at this time, and one of them that I can think of, I feel sure will be preserved somehow, more likely through state action than through township action, but possibly township action if we have to. But we have other, we will make other land purchases down the road. Okay, I think I've said enough.
Councilman Chase, may I just make one quick clarification? My comparison between Catalpa and Middlebush was their quality of life was important enough that the plans were changed. Their quality of life has to do with the sound issue, and we're not giving them the sense that we are sympathetic, or I wasn't getting that until after the comments, but that it was not comparing fields to fields. It was quality of life.
Okay. Councilman Phil Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I love starting again.
He likes it, though.
I love participatory government, but you guys have been asked to participate a little too much. I commend you. When I was here as a public advocate, trying to get people to come out and speak on an issue once was nearly impossible. You guys are soldiers out fighting for your cause, and I commend you for it. And I would say that regardless of what your stance was, your constant energy is commendable. I think it was a few sessions ago, the word was first used by Councilwoman Francois, balance, and balance is really very important. I'm going to step away from the Middlebush Park comment for a second to comment about Catalpa Park and the motion at open space. Mr. Arnie Schmidt's the one who made the motion. He is a good friend of mine, and I hold him in very high regard. So when I hear his opinion, I listen. We had a conversation afterwards, and I think we both agreed at the end of that conversation, and Mr. Schmidt will correct me if I'm wrong, that what he really meant by that was something I think everyone will agree with. We shouldn't be building any fields we don't need to build. I believe Catalpa, the way we went about Catalpa was we saw a piece of land and we tried to figure what we could put there, as opposed to looking at the needs assessment and saying, this is what we need, where can we put it? And I think that's the appropriate way to do it. we also agreed that there are certain things such as tennis courts. There were no tennis courts put in Middlebush Park. The needs for tennis courts wouldn't change by putting in Middlebush Park. So we don't need necessarily a moratorium on tennis courts. That's maintained the same. I think the point he was trying to make is we've just put in a bunch of parks, or I mean, sorry, a bunch of fields, and the county has put in a bunch of fields. Shouldn't we wait and see, or shouldn't we assess in some way the effect of those fields? One point that needs to be decided is what is the effect of the county fields? Councilman Chase, Councilman Sherman, and I believe one other council person, was it you, Mr. Vasanello, met with the county? I can't remember. There was one other council member there, maybe they're no longer on council now, met with the county, and we were assured that that Franklin would get some priority at the Colonial Park parks, and we're hearing that we do not have priority. So that's a discussion we need to have so we can figure out how to count those fields and see how much progress we've made. So that's my opinion on the idea of the moratorium. First of all, I am proud of Middlebush Park. I think we overbuilt by one field, but we had a tremendous need, and we had to fill it, and I'm sorry, it had to go in someone's backyard, and that was the most economical way to do it. The lights were even an economical thing. Once you have fields, using them as much as possible is correct. So I agree with the building of the fields, and I've heard from many of you, the sounds of the children, that's sweet, that doesn't bother you. But when it came to speakers, I'm also proud to say that I am of the same opinion I was on day one. Put in speakers, put in all the speakers you want, but it should have zero impact to the residents who live around there. We heard from our expert that there is a way to do that, an engineering way to do that. I myself am an engineer, not a sound engineer, but I twiddled with some numbers that could get me in the ballpark. Sorry for the pun. And it seemed possible to me, too. So I'm against any sound system that's going to impact the community. That doesn't mean that we can't find a sound system that won't, and we've discussed high-tech solutions and others. But I also agree, it doesn't matter how a speaker is mounted, whether it's on wheels or on a pole. You guys don't care. You guys probably won't see the speakers. You care about how it affects you, and that's the important thing. One last comment about the needs assessment. We call it a needs assessment. I do think it was a valid assessment, but it didn't really evaluate needs. It was a comparison assessment. And you know, it's a funny thing in medicine. People complain, oh, vitamin E is good for you. No, the study now shows it's bad for you. Well, no, the problem is the press reports studies in a very cursory fashion. And if you read the actual study and the methods of the study and the details of the study, you'll realize it didn't say exactly what the press said. The needs assessment did not assess needs. It compared what we have compared to what other towns have. And the assumption was made that they have what they need. They may have less than what they need, or they may have overbuilt. We don't know that. So back to Mr. Schmidt's statement is assessing where we are, and I'm not saying we need a year to assess it, and I'm not saying we need to hire someone to assess it, but I do think we need to look at where we are, figure out what we need, and then figure out where we can put that with the least amount of impact and build those things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Carl Wright.
Just three things, and I'm going to ask our township manager to say something, if that's okay with you. I sat here and I listened for the last 3 months. I kept my mouth shut except a couple of times, but here we go. Last year, there was a sound system in Middlebush Park. Now, if everybody heard it, no one complained about it. Not to the township manager, not to Councilwoman Sherman, who definitely would have brought it to my attention, or to Alice Osipowicz, the recreation director. So I'm kind of thrown back by the fact that everyone says it's an issue. But I'm going to let that one slide right now because the township manager's coming up. Property value, 20 years in the making. When you bought your house, you definitely should have known what was going over there. And if you didn't, well, I can't speak on that. There's nothing I can do on that issue. But let me be very clear, very clear. We went through that needs assessment, and we paid a lot of money for it. I came up with a proposal before we had the needs assessment. Ms. Rosalind Sherman, councilwoman, said, no, we need an assessment. So we spent a whole lot of money and went down to Brad Sutter Carroll, down in Kentucky. They came up and they did a needs assessment. Made phone calls, emails, notices, community forums, whatever they did. They reached out to everybody and said, what do you need? Then they went out and they did comparison, yes, I think some of our members here even mentioned it, to other townships, and more importantly, 65,000 residents, and we still haven't stopped. What do we need to have in order for everyone else to use? Took that into consideration. It's all in that needs assessment report that is sitting out in the hallway. Anybody want a copy? Go pick it up. It'll help you understand exactly where it went. And I don't believe anybody up here on the dais had an issue. I might be wrong, but I'm going to let that go for now. I'm going to stop right there and ask for township manager if he would say 2 words to explain something that happened. And that'll be it for my council comments.
Mr. Vornlacher?
I will draw the assumption here that Councilman Wright is referring to the police report that was completed. Okay. As several have mentioned, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday previous, Mr. Bidlack contacted the police department about the volume that he was hearing on his property coming from the Pop Warner football games in Middlebush Park. There was a police officer came out. There was some conversation with Mr. Bidlack. The police officer, I believe, went over to the park, asked them to lower the volume, came down, spoke with Mr. Bidlack. In the interim, there were conversations with me over the phone from personnel at the police department. I chose to go out. I went out. I spoke actually with Mr. Bidlack. He found me parked on his street, trying to be quiet and listen. And my experience then was, and I want it to be perfectly clear, the volume had been lowered from what it was. I was not out there until about noontime. The one very, very clear time where I heard the PA system at the field was announcement of a touchdown at 12:10. I can tell you, Councilman, somebody scored a touchdown at 10 after 12 because I clearly heard it. However, the level of sound coming from that system was no louder than the crowd noise that really dominated the sound that I was hearing. And I stayed and I spoke with Mr. Bidlack for probably about 45 minutes. So that was the level of the noise this Sunday previous to this past one. Because this was such an issue, I requested that the police department contact the Department of Health and have a certified noise meter technician out this past Sunday to take noise meter readings of the sounds that were being heard generated from Middlebush Park at property lines, and in particular, Mr. Bidlack's property is the closest to the field. So that would be the most relevant here as far as the noise meter readings were concerned. So from 9:19 on Sunday morning until 10:33 on Sunday morning, different types of noise meter readings were taken, including residual readings where there was no other noise other than just what it normally exists. So no whistle, no crowd noise, no speakers, no nothing. All right. The residual levels ranged between 42 and 46 decibels. So for those of you who recall Mr. Zwirling's report back, it was the residuals were in the low 40s when they were taken by me and Mr. Zwirling in Middlebush Park beforehand. And this is, and I'm just telling you, this is the report. So, and it is not for you to comment right now, Mr. Bidlack. This is a council discussion item. The police report puts the levels at 42 to 46 with no other sound other than the residual sound. Now, when the noise meter readings were taken, and I can sit here and I can read down the different readings that were taken in times if you'd like me to do that. At 9:19, it ranged between 53 and 54 dB with the crowd cheering and a referee whistle. At 9:20, 9:21, it was 52 to 54 dB with the crowd cheering. 9:21 to 9:22, it was 52 to 53 dB with the crowd cheering. At 10:05 to 10:06, a PA test was done with music playing over the public address system, and the sound level was at 53, 54 dB. At 10:09, 10:10, 45 to 50 with the crowd cheering, 10 to 10:10, 10:11, 46 to 50 with the crowd cheering. 10:11 to 10:12, 46 to 50 with the crowd cheering. 10:13, 50 to 52 with the PA system and cheering. 10:13 to 10:14, 46 to 50 dB, and it jumped to 60 to 63 dB during that 1 minute period, and that was with very loud cheering. 50 to 52 dB with the PA and crowd cheering at 10:18 to 10:19. 10:22 to 10:23 was 47 to 48 dB with the PA and moderate cheering. 10:26 to 10:27 was 49 to 50 dB with the PA and moderate cheering. And 10:28 to 10:29, 46 to 50 with the PA and cheering. These neighborhood residual readings without crowd noise, PA, or referee whistles were taken at 10:30 to 10:31, 43 to 45, 10:31 to 10:32, 42 to 46, and 10:32 to 10:33, 44 to 46. So that's the report that was made by the police department based on the noise meter readings taken by the investigator from the Department of Health. So.
Okay, okay, council discussion. Mr. Vornlocker, were you done?
Excuse me?
Were you done?
That's the police report. That's what I have to report. Those were the sound meter readings taken during that period of time from 9:06 until 10:34, I believe.
Okay.
Mr.
Okay, we're
Okay.
Okay, we're to council discussion. Deputy Mayor Brian Regan.
Well, just one
Mr. Mayor?
question to the,
Could I
Okay.
ask you,
Please,
Okay.
Mr. Warnlocker, what is the township sound ordinance limit?
65 dB.
I have one
Okay,
little,
Councilman.
I have
Councilman
one
Wright.
little thing that I
Okay,
needed. I had
we're
one little,
gonna keep our decor.
I had
Councilman Wright,
one
go
little
ahead.
thing I forgot to mention. On Sunday, you know we have the two fields, two synthetic fields. there were 2 games going on simultaneously all afternoon. 2 legitimate games on both fields all afternoon. So I want you to understand what those readings just told you.
Okay.
During the morning, there
Okay,
were
it's not a-
2
it's not a-
games going
Okay, this,
on.
we don't have a free-for-all discussion. Councilman Wright, are you still the floor?
I forgot to mention, and I was corrected. During the morning from 9 o'clock, 8:30-ish, until approximately around 4 o'clock, there were 2 games going on simultaneously at Middle Bush Park. Now, if you ask me how I know, I was there. I'm the game announcer. Even though I retired.
Okay, hold on.
Even though I retired,
we're gonna keep the good decor like
I
we have.
was there. So I just want to let you know, the police department did come. I was sitting up in the booth. The same police officer came twice, last week and this week. So there you have it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Deputy Mayor, we're all taking turns as we did. Deputy Mayor Brian Regan, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the needs assessment's been mentioned a lot during this whole conversation. I actually had come onto council during the process of that. I got appointed in 11, March of 2011. And then I was elected to take my term effective January. So that process was already in place. So there was a lot of things. When you come on, there are a lot of things that you're doing, right? A number of us have full-time jobs, that we go to. So on a night like this, you come in from working, you come here. You're on many subcommittees. That subcommittee was going, at this point, there are things, any one council person cannot have their hands in everything and be on top of everything. It's just physically impossible. So you try to focus on your subcommittees. So this, I kind of let go. I looked at the assessment and went along with it. And the night that assessment had a public hearing and accepted by the council was March 12th of 2012. And so I respectfully disagree with Councilman Kramer and some others who say that needs assessment was not a needs assessment. It actually, it was more than just a comparison, right? It said the preparation of the parks and recreation facility programs inventory included a discussion of facilities by park type, discussion of parks, recreation facilities, and open space provided by the county, state, schools, nonprofit organizations. Preparation of a comprehensive needs analysis based on recreation facility level of service guidelines, public workshops, surveys of the general public's, meetings with stakeholders and special interest groups. In addition, it talks about the population at the time of the study being done, which it said that it grew to 62,300 in 2010. So that needs assessment was done based upon the needs of a community of all our size, based upon the population of approximately 62,000 people. In addition, we've heard the term sports complex. And so I was curious about that because I didn't hear that. And when I went into the rec assessment, I didn't see anything that said it. So then I was like, well, I'm hearing council people use that term because I understand residents, right? Clearly, a number of you were upset about it, and language is important. So to get your point across, you're calling it a sports complex, and I truly understand that and have no issues with that. But when council people start using it, and then I go and find that their comments the night that was introduced, and they heard that there was plenty of people here who came and spoke on the night of the rec, mostly in support of it. There was no council person up here because everybody that's sitting up here now, except for myself, was at that meeting and gave input that said Middle Bush is a sports complex. In fact, the comment from Ms. Sherman is stated that the ball is in their court now and promised to move forward as aggressively as possible. So clearly, recollection and memories of council people about what they said at the time they accepted this assessment, after review of it, it was in the process for a year, clearly has morphed into something else. Now, I'm not in their head, so I can't say why. You know, why all of a sudden they're changing their mind and they're using it, whether it's convenient, whether, and I also understand Ms. Sherman's position clearly as council person of Second Ward. She's representing the concerns of her council people. I would do the same thing as representing the needs of the people in the council. But as clearly pointed out by someone in the audience who challenged me earlier, said that I'm at large, so I have to take a step back and I look at the at large relative to it. And what I can clearly, I can also talk about personally, my children are 27 and 24 now, so that soccer program everybody's talked about, I was one of those soccer dads, coach, going through, and I went over there this past weekend. They're in the same position they were in the 90s when my kids were there. The same exact position. SGS parking lot overfilled, not enough there, those fields are overgrown. The poor residents that live on the street behind it, like, talk about not getting a break. Like, they have those schools during the week, and then they have to have that. And we have, as a town, done nothing to relieve that to those residents. So if there's anyone I feel sorry for, it's clearly those, because they have to deal with the school, and just like the middle school. When the program was up at the middle school, they had to deal with the middle school during the week, and then on the weekends, they didn't get a break. We have to ensure that facilities are put and spread across the town so that the support and facilities needed are dispersed across the town for all residents. Because clearly, if you live behind a park that has an athletic facility, a field on it, you are going to have noise, and there's going to be discomfort, and there's going to be disruption. It's just part of life living next to a park. So, again, I understand the concerns for those folks that are there. Someone said, why don't you come to me? Well, actually, some of you in June, some of you who live on Charles Street, had a card that I placed in. I spoke to someone's son because the parents were away for the weekend, and I gave the son it, and I went there and I listened. Another person, they actually were in the garage, so when you go down to Charles Street and you make the right, the cul-de-sac at the end, there was a woman in the garage. I asked her if I could walk up to her property to go and listen, so I did that multiple times. This past Sunday, I went again, and clearly the first house on Charles Street, as you come in, those first ones right behind the fields, it is loud. You can hear the cheering. You can, obviously when the loudspeaker's on, you can hear that. When I went down and made the right, and again went back to that cul-de-sac, I sat there. I could hear the faintness of the crowd. I could hear a whistle. The whistles when they blow, you do hear them. But what I heard more was, for probably about 15, 20 minutes that I was there, was the sound of the power washer that was doing some house on, if you're looking at it from the cul-de-sac, on the left-hand side down. So the sound of that, and then another time I was there was a lawnmower. So generally the sounds of the field were being drawn out by just the normal maintenance that people do with a lawnmower or a power washer. I also went to the other end of it, because I think someone said they live at the other end. And I sat there, and again, I could definitely hear the noise, the fact that there's crowds, and when the loudspeaker, you could hear it. But on the other hand, I also, when I sat in I think I had my truck that day, I could hear the sounds of birds, animals. I could actually hear someone has a pool, a built-in pool there, and the water that was being recycled through the filter as the water was breaking through it. Now, you could believe me or not. You could say I'm lying. Like, I can't do anything about what you think. I can only tell you what I heard. So I was able to hear a lot of different sounds. And again, you could believe me or not. I also went out to McGuffey. Yeah. And there I could hear the sounds. I could hear the the faint sound of the crowd when they were cheering. You know, it gets further away. However, I also could tell the house that I was in front of, they had their doors open, and I could hear them in the kitchen, like moving plates and everything. So, like, you know, could actually hear sounds from the residents and the kids that were playing in the area. So you definitely, you know, you definitely hear it. There's no doubt about it that you hear the crowds when they're there, and you hear the whistles when the game is going on. And the loudspeaker, you can hear it. You know, I don't know what else to tell you. Is that I definitely heard that. But I have gone. I'm not sure how many other of my council members have gone, but I've been there. I was there in June, probably 3 Saturdays, and then this past Sunday, and I will continue to go as long as this continues to be not resolved. Unfortunately, I agree with your pain and your frustration, as is very difficult for us sitting on this side, that this hasn't come to resolution. I'm hoping that now with the Land Use Subcommittee making a recommendation, that between them and the major council ward people involved, that there can be some sort of agreement reached to move past this, because we do have to break this. I do not want to, as you all, you know, we haven't even gotten to the rest of the business of what we have to do, and it's already going on to 10 p.m. So whoever said that we hope we're going to get out of here before midnight tonight, we're probably, I wouldn't take that over and under. So that's about the needs assessment and the fact that, you know, for the fields, what the open space did, I definitely, given the fact that we need those fields, I spoke to the soccer people. They have been turned down. They are not allowed to use the county fields on a regular. The county is not allowing any group to rent those fields or to use those fields on a weekly basis, one after one. So it seems like you can get a group to come in there to use for a day or maybe 2, I don't know, but the soccer teams were told that they cannot use those fields as part of it. I do know that those fields that are in Middle Bush that are being waiting to see, the soccer teams can't use them because of the fact that they need to get seeded and the seed and the turf take hold. They're hoping they can use them in the spring, but there's even, depending upon how the winter goes, they may not use them till next fall. So the fact that, you know, those fields are there, they're still not in the queue of relieving any of the issues for the people that live right behind Sampson G. They're still going through another year of it, and the soccer club said that when they move over there, that still is not going to be enough for their need for the soccer program. So clearly there is a need for continuing soccer, and we also there's a need for cricket fields. Like there just are. There's a lot of leagues, and there aren't enough fields for it. So I would not support any sort of moratorium on moving forward in the athletic field, because even the design work, as you all are aware of what we're going through Catalpa, like, you don't sit down and do a design in 3 months and it's done. It takes quite a while, because there's feedback. We're going through that process with Catalpa. Like, the first feedback was, hey, that footprint was way too big. We heard it. That's back in the cycle now. So that process is working. All right, and property values, someone talked about their property values. Like, I don't live anywhere near the park. My property value is down $125,000 from its peak. So, you know, it's just another data point. Somebody saying that it's related to the park. Probably not. Probably just has to do with the fact that houses really escalated, and then we had the big bust in '08 where everything fell. So, again, I don't have any park near me, and I know my house is $125,000 off the peak price that it would have sold at that time. And I'm not denying that the person said whatever they said, you know, they're true. I'm just letting you know as another data point for someone who doesn't live near a park that's it. So hopefully we will come to closure. I would really like to see this done. If not by the next council meeting, certainly not past that. I do not want. Thank you. I understand what you all want. I said I hope that it is no later by then, all right, because I really don't want to come here in November And as much as Councilman Kramer said, we love having you all here and participating, and it's a good sign. It's, this story is getting old. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Now for my discussion of this item. And I understand you've got the passion and the feeling for this issue and your quality of life. Understand and respect that, and I appreciate the respect, the decor, the demeanor that we've had during this, and it's a difficult issue. And I'll just say also, earlier, Mr. Vornlocker, he was just reading statistics. He wasn't offering opinions. He's just telling you what his readings were. If you have other opinions or points to that, we're glad to hear that. So the bottom line, and you can look me up going back a decade or so, I've always said quality of life of the people who are here is very important. And this is an issue for me. There's no good guy and no bad guy. You want your quality of life, and that's fine, and the quiet enjoyment, and in all good feeling, if it is Pop Warner and soccer or whomever, want to hear from things. And there are times for me when that wasn't the case. Years ago, most all of us fought against some bad eminent domain where some developers wanted to take people's land, and although the developer might disagree with me, then there was a good guy and a bad guy. The bad guy was one who wanted to take someone's land and leave someone out in the cold, so to speak. And I'm thinking most of us agree. You're not thinking there's nefarious points that's, someone wants to do here, just difference of opinions. I just want to go to, because it was mentioned about the park and building it. Yeah, the park was given to us a dozen years ago or so. And as Councilman Chase said, it was right around then when we implemented our open space tax. So the big thrust in the beginning was using all our money for acquisition. That's why we've got a lot. We've built some farms will be here permanently and such as that. Once that acquisition started peaking is when we started turning towards recreation. There's only, as in the Board of Ed, there's only a finite amount of dollars. So if we did it for recreation, we may have had less actual open space in the past. So it's so now we're more if there's acquisition, we're certainly looking at that still, but it's more towards recreation and utilization. So talking about this needs report, comparison report, however you want to phrase it. And there's none of us escaping it up here. Some of us like it, some of us may not. All of us voted for it. Whether we want to change our minds now or wouldn't have, that's the cart, the horse is out of the barn. We all voted for it. So and frankly, I think it was probably a little bit too intense, but that's on me now. Maybe I should have said that earlier. My fault, and I didn't. And it reminds me, any of us who say anything different, reminds me of the movie Casablanca. Comes out, what? Gambling. I can't believe there's gambling here. So it's sports complex. I can't believe it. We were all there. We saw the maps. We looked at it ad nauseum. We voted on the lights and all that. So again, if we like it, that's fine. So we, in my opinion, we do need the recreation, but I think we blew it on this one, and I'm putting it on my shoulders too. It was too much. Now I see about it, and hopefully I can make amends somehow, though your quality of life has been disturbed a little bit. So most of you know, let me say, you may not know, I should say, I'm a certified public accountant, a CPA by profession. So sometimes I'm a bottom line kind of guy. So the bottom line is, I'm going to hit the nail on the head. I cannot imagine installing a sound system in the park because the residents don't like it. I don't think it's necessary. It's not going to get more kids into sports. And it might be nice for people to hear their names. That's fine. None of us dispute that. Us, our kids, like to hear your name announced, but it's not going to make, to me, recreation more. And even if there's the low ambient sound, the cheers, I think no one's really disputing that, though in the best of all worlds you wouldn't have it, but you seem to say you'll live with it. which is different than an amplified voice saying something. So, yes, we need recreation. Maybe this was too much, but I couldn't imagine it going forward at this point. And as was said, we heard you. Catalpa was put out there, and that's fine. We can put things out there. And the resident said, but wait a minute, I don't like it, it's too much. So it goes back to the drawing board now, and that's fine too. So when we come back to it, I think we have a history here of being fairly open. You might not like all the decisions, but we've heard you over this time, and as was said, maybe too much, that you had to come back, but I can fairly guarantee we're going to keep listening. And that's my discussion of this issue.
Mr.
Council-
Mayor, I'd like to, at this moment, make a motion.
Councilman Wright, then Councilwoman Francois, she'd asked me.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that no permanent sound system be placed in Middle Bush Park.
Seconded.
Okay, so the motion is no permanent sound system for Middle Bush Park. And I'm guessing you're all saying, but where's that leave me with the mobile one? Okay, that's the motion right now. I'm not going to, that's what we've got on hand. Is there any? Pardon me?
Just so there's no confusion, I know it was brought up earlier, can our attorney clarify the status of the law as it
For two ordinances.
refers to the use of portable right now?
It really is an issue that just came to me tonight, so I don't think that Bob and I have actually worked through these issues completely, but there is clearly a provision in the law that with regards to amplified sound, which has specific decibel limits in it. And that's, I think, what the police department has always been working towards. There is I think the portable amplification provision in it was something, my recollection that it was put in to deal with, large radios in parks, boom boxes, I guess is what everybody call them. And I actually think that
I can probably
then Lieutenant or Sergeant Vornlacher.
Sergeant Vornlacher at the time, back in the 1990s, and it was actually added to the code specifically for issues related to what were referred to back then as boom boxes and also mobile auto sound systems. And the public right-of-way was specifically back then, and while it may have been written broadly, it was intended for enforcement on sidewalks, on public sidewalks, and in fact in apartment complexes where the public sidewalks abutted the apartment complexes, and it was to address specific problems that we had at that time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Kramer.
So we've just heard what it was intended for. Perhaps the township attorney would give us a clear and complete rendering of what the Second Amendment was intended for and how it's been used.
The Second Amendment.
My point is that there is a lot of argument over the Second Amendment. It reads what it reads, and people argue over it. You could tell me what your intention to when you wrote that was, but I can guarantee you can't tell me the intention of every council member when they voted for it. So I differ with our township attorney, or perhaps I don't, perhaps I misunderstand him, but when it comes to
Perhaps
portable...
I haven't rendered an opinion yet, so
Well,
I
but-
don't know what you're disagreeing with.
Because you said there is a decibel level,
There is.
but
There
not
are-
to portable systems.
No, the answer is that there are generally decibel levels with regards to amplified sound, and that's what I was trying to say, that's where there is the conflict, because there seems to be a general decibel level, and then there seems to be that provision which says what it says, and it's really not like the Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment says what it says, and we only think it says something different because a judge said it said something different in 1945. It really does say what it says. And that's all I'm saying, is that there is, as I think all that somebody said is that there was a conflict there's an internal conflict in the ordinance, and I think that that's really what I'm,
It's my understanding the one that talks about decibel levels talks just about sound in general. And the one that talks about public space talks about sound emanating from public space. So it appears to me that there are two different ordinances, one about sound in general, and then another one about how sound should be used in public space. So yes, they have different limits, but I don't know that they are entirely in conflict. Now, I will also state that it's an overreach, that it's probably and now I'll talk about what I think its intention was probably about the use of boom boxes in a place like Colonial Park, so that someone on tree A wasn't going to hear the boom box of someone on tree B. It probably wasn't meant for a place where that, I won't use the word, but has an intensive sports designation, and it would be an overreach for that. I would like to see this changed to, and perhaps it would need a specific designation for Middle Bush Park, that the sound generated by by any sound system on Middle Bush Park cannot be heard beyond the limits of the park. That's essentially what our expert proposed, was a sound system that would do that, and he gave a decibel level of 40 dB, but his whole intent was that the sound would not be heard above the ambient noise at the edge of the park. So you don't need to train officers, you don't need to have sound equipment, you don't have to get it calibrated, you just need to have people complain if they feel that the law is being broken, and they show up, the officer shows up to the property line, and he listens. And if he can't hear the speakers, the person loses credibility. If he can hear the speakers, then we ask that the speakers be turned down, as they did on the other weekend, and Mr. Wright, I am told, turned down the sound, and I am told that things went better after that. Maybe that isn't true, but that's what I'm told. So I think that is the solution to it, and I also think we have an ordinance on the books, and we're in a pickle. I'm told we can't choose which ordinances to enforce and which ones not to enforce. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I'm sorry,
Kramer, you-
Councilman Kramer, you done? Okay.
Yeah, Councilwoman Sherman?
Not enough.
I don't know whether I have the rules properly. I would like to amend the motion to add permanent as well as portable sound.
make a motion. Sure.
Councilman Wright?
I'll second
Yeah,
that.
you accept the
I have a
amendment?
question. Small question.
Okay, just parliamentarily, a second. Okay, there was a motion made, a motion to...
Was there a second to that?
There was a
original motion?
second.
Mr. Chase seconded
Councilman
it.
And now there's a motion to amend.
So I'm just asking Councilman Wright if he'll accept the change. If not, then we'll vote on the amendment.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so now you would have to have a second to the amendment, and then you would have to vote on that.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Yes, I seconded it.
Okay, I mean, to Councilwoman Sherman's.
Yes.
For the third time, yes, I seconded Councilwoman Sherman's amendment.
Okay, right.
So we,
That was the second time, but go ahead.
so the order would be discussion on the amendment,
Okay,
a vote on the amendment, and then a vote on the main motion.
okay.
That's the,
So now it's discussion on the amendment to make it permanent and temporary speakers. Is there discussion on that?
Mayor,
Councilman Vasanella?
I heard everything you said about this ordinance, but I'm still trying to understand. Is the ordinances, and I understand if the attorney has not had time to review it well enough that he wants to render an opinion, but either the manager or attorney, do you feel that right now, the way our ordinances are written, that somebody could not go in and use a portable unit in a park for whatever reason, including announcing games? Because if we have an ordinance that describes it, a resolution here, I want to understand what we have on the books as it is now.
I'll try to go over it again, and then Councilman Kramer will correct me. There is a
And he'll be right.
there is a general noise ordinance, and the general noise ordinance, and it doesn't make any distinction between permanent or portable, that has specific noise levels in it. So, and that's section, it's table number 1, which is to section 167. Then there is the specific noise ordinance provision that Councilman Kramer referred to, which has a specific provision in it for sound reproduction from a portable source on a public property, in which it refers to, I think it's 50 feet is the limitation on that provision. So you have two different, you seem to have a general provision that allows sound up to 65 decibels, and then this specific provision, which, depending on how you read it, is either conflicts with it or further restricts it. And I only referred to this to the manager for context. I wasn't suggesting that somehow the township manager's recollection as to the reason why the ordinance was done would somehow control whether or not it's enforced or not. But I can tell you that I think generally the way the ordinance has been applied has been as we have suggested, which is that the health department or the police department has enforced it in accordance with the tables. So that's all I'm saying. So that's where we are.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Just a
Deputy Mayor.
question to our attorney. So public lands, right, talks about that. So is the school considered public lands?
As a school, I think that under the definition, it is probably a public space is any real property or structure thereon that are owned, leased, or controlled by a governmental entity. So the answer is yes.
So that means this ordinance would apply to our high school field, so we technically should not be allowing a loudspeaker to be used at the football games or any sort of games?
No, because I think that the point is that there is, that provision deals with self-contained portable handheld music or sound amplification or reproduction equipment. And of course, the limitation there is self-contained portable handheld or sound amplification system. So once again, not particularly well written as to whether or not it's something that is so portable that it's held in your hand. And I mean, when I first read it, honestly, I thought it applied to boomboxes and bullhorns. That's what it sounded like to me. Because certainly, you could have portable sound systems in stadiums that come on flatbed trucks. So I didn't, that's not what I first thought. But so I'm assuming that the high school system is something that's permanent. Therefore, wouldn't apply, I'm assuming it is. So therefore, this section's a specific section, which is 167-8D, I don't believe would apply to a permanent system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Just one
Councilman
question.
Prasad, yes.
Mr. Reno, the township noise ordinance is for the whole town in terms of noise?
Sure.
Of any sort?
Correct.
And that's at 65 decibels?
Correct.
And that applies to the whole town? irrespective of public property or not.
Correct.
Okay. So this is a new wrinkle in that this is portable.
Correct. Correct.
And doesn't that conflict with, if the portable system is, let's say, 45 decibels, it's not in violation of the township noise ordinance, but you're saying within 50 feet, it still is audible, and so it's in violation.
Correct. Once again.
So there's
and
a conflict.
This is just me kind of working through this as we're sitting here.
Right.
There's obviously two different provisions. You know, we'd have to go through and parse the entire ordinance, but this ordinance itself is not, you know, two sections before it talks about personal music amplification or reproduction equipment shall not be operated in such a manner that is plainly audible at a residential property line. And then it adds this caveat, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. Now, that seems to be different to me than the sound amplification system that's D, which doesn't seem to make a difference with regards to.
Well, B and C are vehicles.
Well, it says personal.
Personal, right, B is personal or commercial vehicle, vehicular music amplification or reproduction equipment.
I read that
C
as
is personal vehicular music amplification equipment.
Right.
I mean,
That's
if
how
you
you
want to
read it.
ask the guy who wrote it, you can ask me. And I will tell you what its intention was, whether or not, as Councilman Kramer says, sometimes intention is different than
What it says,
interpretation, and I will certainly not argue that. The interpretation is what it is. The intent, when this was introduced to council for consideration back in the 1990s, was for handheld boom boxes, tape recorders, radios, or what have you. It was all self-contained, which meant just that. It was not a portable public address system, which would have multiple components, speakers, and an amplifier and a microphone. It was self-contained. It was intended for something that someone would play music over. That's what its intent was then. It was not for a public address system. That's not what its intent was. You know, 20 years later, as we talk about what was written 20 years ago, I can only tell you what its intent was because I am the person who wrote it. Pardon my grammar when I did.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Chase.
I wasn't being critical.
I know you
Okay, Councilman Chase and Councilwoman Francois.
I'm just reading the wording here where it's self-contained, comma, portable, comma, handheld music or sound amplification or reproduction equipment shall not be operated on a public space, so public right-of-way, et cetera. The question, if you were legally parsing this, is, are these words self-contained, portable, handheld, are they parallel or are they sequential? In other words, it is only forbidden if all of these things describe the equipment in question, self-contained, portable, handheld.
I will tell you the intent was they're sequential.
Intended that.
They were intended to be sequential and all-inclusive of the device.
Okay, so it would seem to me that the conclusion is that this does not apply to the non-self-contained, non-handheld, and portable more difficultly system in Middlebush Park. None of which is to say that it necessarily should be permitted. It's just to say that the present ordinance doesn't forbid it.
For what it's worth, the chief of police was my partner at the time, and he helped me write it.
Mr. Mayor, if I can.
Yes, Mr. Nome, please.
I don't, if council is looking for this ordinance as answering this question, I don't think that it does. And because while I understand everybody's comments with regards to the ordinance, I know that the way it has been applied by the department is certainly consistent with the belief that this applied to things that were self-contained, and it didn't really apply to portable PA systems. And I'm just saying that's the way I think generally it's been applied, because there's probably been lots of examples at lots of events, township events, things like festivals, and that it has not applied to the 4th of July, the 4th of July event, the Canal
Which is
Fest,
held here.
all of which have those kind of things, and to which this has not applied, and generally we've applied the general DB. So if we're going to take the position that anything that's not permanently affixed to the ground that can be heard 50 feet away is prohibited, then we're going to have to, then that application is going to have to apply to everything. And everything means everything, the 4th of July festival, the Canal Fest, everything. So I don't think that that's how we've ever applied it. So I think that we really are dealing with the decibel limits, and we really are back to the council has to decide whether or not in this circumstance they want to allow in portable or not, or a system.
So I have a question.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes,
I've
ma'am.
been letting everybody else jump in. Can I jump in here now? So for a point of clarification, if we adopt tonight, Mr. Attorney, a resolution that hereby prohibits a permanent installed sound system and a portable sound system at Middlebush Park specifically, are we breaking the law of the
No.
ordinance, or can we go ahead and vote
No,
on that?
because the answer is that this is a park that you still control. And we still, so we control how we permit out the park. So there is no reason that you can't put that condition on that park.
For that park specifically?
Yes,
Which-
ma'am, you can certainly do that. And this ordinance, we're talking about something completely, I think we're talking about
Apples
the
and
flip side.
oranges right now.
Apples and oranges. What we're talking about is, could council authorize the use of a portable sound system if they wanted to tonight? The answer is, I believe that you can, because I don't think this ordinance it was intended to prohibit that, and it doesn't, I don't think it actually reads to prohibit that. So if council wanted to, you could, and if you wanted to prohibit it, you certainly could.
Because clearly, we don't want to break the law here, right?
Correct.
And
No,
we- And we don't want
and you
people to
wouldn't-
think we're
you
doing
wouldn't be-
certain things
by
for some
banning it,
areas.
you wouldn't even be breaking the law because, in my opinion, because while this ordinance doesn't seem to bar that, it doesn't mean that you can't bar it if you wanted to.
Okay.
That's the answer.
So is that for Councilwoman Francois, is that a motion to amend it for?
Well, we already voted on the motion to amend it. I'm making a
No, we
motion.
didn't.
No, we have not voted
We
on the
haven't
motion.
made,
You want to
We
amend
haven't-
her motion that just Middlebush?
okay,
permanent and temporary?
okay, so I'll amend your motion?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, I'd like to
That's
make a
fine.
motion to adopt a resolution that hereby prohibits a permanent installed and portable sound system in Middlebush Park.
And
And I think that was the amendment, right?
okay,
Can
so
somebody find
Councilwoman-
out where Councilman Prasad went to? Yes,
Francois, sorry, Councilman Sherman, that's okay with you?
I'm perfectly fine with
And I'll just ask once, Councilman Chase, that's okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Although I think she could have just moved to call the question.
I'm trying to follow the protocol here.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we're in the middle of,
It's kind of late now.
we're in the middle of discussion on that. I just have one question, and not to put you on the spot, but just off the top of your head for Mr. Vornlocker. Are there any, like, it was just brought out, if we didn't say Middlebush, Franklin Day this weekend, Canal Fest, 4th of July may have been affected. Anything you can think might be affected off, that jumps out at you?
As far as events that take place in our public parks?
In Middlebush?
In Middlebush Park, well, I guess we won't be having any Franklin Day festivals in Middlebush Park any day soon.
Okay.
There have not been any public events planned for Middlebush Park because Middlebush Park isn't really complete at this point. But, so there are none that I can think of that it would be interfering with.
And then I'm going to turn to our attorney for a technical question. Okay, this is a resolution. Will we have to technically do this with an ordinance, or this would just work?
No, I think that right now we're talking about controlling the specific, a specific event in a specific park. So I don't have a problem with doing it by resolution. However, I think that the better course, the better practice, of course, would be to put it in an ordinance so that it is clear and permanent, because I don't want you to have to, every time you have a use proposed for it, to have to go through the same process.
So if I could just add to that, Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Warnock,
So
please.
Middlebush Park is unique, and we all know that, in that there are things in Middlebush Park that we have nowhere else in the township. And we do need to revise the park rules and regulations as it relates to Middlebush Park, specifically as it relates to the hours that the park is open because of the lights. So in line with, I think, what Mr. Rainone is saying, what I might suggest is that while you adopt this resolution tonight, that the ordinance that governs Middlebush Park be amended, and that at that time, the prohibition against amplified sound from a public address system, be it portable or permanent, really, it would be prohibited in the rules of the park, and which those are codified in the ordinance.
I'd like to call the vote.
So this is the vote on the amendment now. Just to recap, it's an amendment to the original, and this is to prohibit both permanent and portable.
Right.
Okay, so we'll go to our votes. So procedurally, there's going to be two votes. The original motion was no permanent sound system, that's it. Okay, the amendment now is no permanent or temporary sound system in Middlebush Park. So the first vote will be to see if it changes to temporary and permanent Middlebush Park. If that votes yes, then we'll go on to the vote whether it's actual or not. If that vote is no, then we'll go back to voting just on permanent sound system. Okay, just so you know. So the first vote, no matter what, isn't final. The second vote will be. Okay, so.
I am confused.
If not, okay. Should I,
Okay.
do you want to say it?
No, do we?
Do we have to do it that way?
Well, there was a motion to prohibit permanent sound system on the park, and it's now been amended to include permanent and portable. So I think we have to vote on the amendment first.
Amendment first, okay.
And then, assuming it's amended, then we can vote on the motion as it is.
Gotcha.
So,
All right. Yeah,
correct.
so the first vote is, should we actually vote on permanent and temporary Middlebush Park? Okay.
Right.
Nothing
Very
else?
kind.
Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on that motion to amend the motion.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
No.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
No.
Okay, so the motion passed. So now what we're going to do is vote on the resolution to prohibit permanent and temporary sound systems in Middlebush Park. Then that's the, that ends it.
Correct.
What you just
Yes.
did.
No, you voted to amend the motion.
We vote to amend Carl's motion. He wouldn't accept the amendment.
He wouldn't accept the amendment, so we had a vote to put portable into his, now it's the main motion.
Which will be the same vote.
Yeah.
We'll be
It's
voting
ba-
like
very
same-
similar.
The same exact.
It's
thing
going to
we
come
just
out the
voted.
same, but
Correct.
this is the parliamentary procedure,
Correct,
Yeah.
it is.
as spelled out in the Second Amendment.
Okay, so a yes vote is.
Second Amendment to what?
We're going to have another amendment here? Okay.
That's to this resolution.
Okay, this vote is, a yes vote is prohibit permanent and temporary sound systems in Middlebush Park. A no vote means no.
Sometimes no means no.
Okay.
A yes vote means it's prohibited.
Yes, a yes vote means prohibited, no vote means not prohibited. Just to add it. Okay, so Madam Clerk, please poll the council on that amended motion, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
No.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
No.
Okay, so the motion carries, and that's it till next chapter. Councilman Kramer? Councilman Kramer?
I would love to say I didn't mean to argue with Mr. Renone. However, Mr. Renone knows I love to argue with Mr. Renone.
And with everybody else.
And I'm still speaking, Mr. Regan, thank you.
I guess participatory democracy includes me.
Yes, and I always thoroughly enjoy it and learn from it. Thank you, Mr. Renone.
Okay, thank you. All of us appreciate the input. Okay, so now we go back to our agenda to council comments.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, you
Go home.
You
Go
can stay
rest.
if you like. You don't. No one's kicking you out.
See you next year.
So the next meeting is, no, probably don't want to.
Comments. Yeah. I'd like to, Mr. Mayor,
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Brian Regan.
given the lateness of the hour and everything we've been through, I'd like to make a motion to bypass council comments.
Great.
How is that?
Seconded.
Get a second? Thank you.
General-
No problem.
I would have a couple of announcements I want to make. They'll take about 10 or 15 seconds.
Okay, most. How about if we do it?
I had
most
some
of us.
things I wanted to say.
All right.
So did Rob.
We'll go back to them, and most of us will be late. Okay.
Second.
All right. Moved and seconded to dispense council comments.
All in.
And a couple of people said they have things they want to say. So if nothing else, we'll go to a vote. Okay. So I'll go to a roll call so we can hear it. Ms. McCarthy, please, a yes vote says skip council comments, and no vote means we'll go ahead with them.
Councilman Chase.
No.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
No.
Mayor Levine.
No.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
No.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
I voted no.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, this happened.
Okay. The vote is to.
Okay.
The vote is to dispense with council comments.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll see. We can get our announcements in somehow. All right. So, Mr. Vornlocker, is there anything we should know?
He's gone.
Oh, okay.
Move on.
We already did council discussion items, yes. Now we come to approval of the minutes.
Okay.
These minutes are presented to the Township Council for approval, the work session regular meeting of August 12th, 2014, and the work session regular meeting of September 9th, 2014. Is there a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on approval of the minutes.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes on the 9th and abstain on the 12th. I wasn't here.
I voted yes, Mr.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
I abstain on the 12th and yes on the 9th, because I was not here on the 12th.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Abstain. Okay. So it passes. We're now at item number 19, warrants.
What was your vote? You abstained?
Oh, me? Oh, no, I voted yes on the 9th and abstain on the 12th. I
Oh.
wasn't here. Pardon me. I should have been louder or clearer. Okay. So item 13 is approval of the warrants. The warrants are the bills that we pay. Warrants in the amount of $4,214,284.33 on September 23rd, 2014 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Is there a motion to pay the warrants as read?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on payment of the warrants.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, so now we have two public hearings. Ordinances usually go into law after two votes. We vote on them once, and then generally the next meeting, there's a second vote. At that passes the second time, it goes into law. At that second vote, we have a public hearing where anyone from the public can comment on it. We have two of those today. The first is item 14A on the agenda, ordinance 4083-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of conservation easement from James Lenahan to the Township of Franklin for premises known as Block 529, Lot 81, more commonly known as 81 Winchester Way. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. And this is just basically a routine conservation easement to the town. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, seeing nobody's interested in speaking, I move that we close this portion of the public discussion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question about
Yes,
this.
Councilman Chase, please.
The way the agenda reads, it says, well, it actually says Block 259, Lot 81, in parentheses, 81 Winchester Way. But when I look at the actual description of the property, it says it's 1225 Eastern Avenue. It's between Eastern Avenue and the canal. I assume that what this means is that Mr. Lenahan lives at 81 Winchester Way, although the property is on Eastern Avenue. But I just want us all to be perfectly clear about that.
You're right. When I looked at it, it's on Easton Avenue. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
With regards to because I'm looking at the meets and bounds description, so it's pretty clear what it is.
Okay, so it's not known as 81 Winchester Way. Block 5, that's...
When I'd first seen it, I wondered, what is there at 81 Winchester Way?
Block 2, it's Lot 81, Block 259.
Lot 529.
Yeah.
Which is it?
I'm
Block
just looking at the
259?
description, is Block 259.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll keep...
So it's just a matter of making sure that when it's published, it's
That's very good.
clear.
Okay, thank you. So it's Block 259, Lot 81, located on Easton Avenue, between Easton Avenue and the canal.
Correct.
Very
And
good, thank you.
the ordinance, the conservation easement attached to the ordinance is correct, so,
Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think... that's it.
Okay, move for final passage.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 14A, ordinance 4083-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan? Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. We next have the second and final of our ordinance hearings. This is item 14B on the agenda, ordinance number 4084-14, an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. More particularly, Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 226-30, on-street handicap parking space at 107 Brookline Avenue, Somerset. This is to add an on-street handicap parking space for someone who has requested and needs it. The township attorney has approved the affidavit. A publication and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Seeing no one from the public, I move we close this portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 14B on the agenda, ordinance 4084-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have two ordinance introductions. The first is item 15A on the agenda, ordinance 4085-14. An ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly, Chapter 226, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 226-30, stop intersections, adding Weston Road at Metlers Road. Right now, at that intersection, there's a stop on Metlers Road. I think I've got that. And this would make it a four-way stop for safety's sake. This doesn't need DOT approval, and if we went through the process of having a light, I think we would need their approval, and it would cost us at least $250,000, so this is, we're doing it for now. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, October 14th, 2014, 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilman Kramer.
Yeah, this is a badly needed improvement, a dangerous corner because of sight lines. I'm thrilled that we are going to be able to put this in. While it will be a little bit of an inconvenience to people on Weston Road, it can literally save a life. Thank you.
Well put. Thanks. Okay, if nothing else there, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 15A, ordinance 4085-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. We have now our second and last of ordinance introductions. It's 15B on the agenda, ordinance 4086-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of conservation easement and basin maintenance easement from the Van Realty Company for premises known as Block 86.02, Lot 1.02 at 60 Clyde Road. That's where they're located. This, again, a standard conservation easement and basin maintenance easement. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, October 14th, 2014 at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 15B, ordinance 4086-14, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have item number 16, our consent agenda. Consent agenda are items of a generally routine nature, upon which the council can vote at one time. We have items A through Q today. It's any council person's prerogative to take something off for a separate vote, or of course to make any inquiries. So the items 16A through 16Q, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for the consent agenda? Questions?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on the consent agenda.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we come to item number 17, resolutions voted on separately, of which we do not have any today. And that leads us to 18, old business, 2014 boards and commission vacancies. Are there any nominations? If not, we go to item number 19, executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, Deputy Mayor Regan, please.
I'm told that there's important announcements to make that's going to save lives, so I make a motion that for council members who feel that they have important announcements to make, to allow them to make that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Regan. You're a gentleman.
If there's no objection, we'll do it. Councilman Kramer?
Well, there are two events involving the food bank. One is Canal Fest, which is October 18th, and then you also mentioned the police softball game, seniors, several other groups involved this Sunday at 1 o'clock. That also supports the food bank. And Mr. Vasanella, did you want to talk about the press conference?
Go ahead.
Okay, so there will be a press conference held in this room Friday. It's by Hope for Salione. They are a Sierra Leone group. As we all know, there is a crisis in West Africa about Ebola. The township is not holding the event, but we are facilitating the event, and it will be 7 o'clock Friday, and it will be televised. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Regan.
Anything else? Okay. Then we will have, item number 19 is executive session now. Executive session is when the council meets in private. We can only do this on certain occasions, such as personnel matters, attorney-client privilege, such as that, litigation. And when the subject of that executive session no longer needs to be made private, the minutes of those executive sessions will be made public. So I have item 19, resolution 14-464, to authorize the executive session for two items. One is personnel, termination of township employee, and number 2, municipal court report. These are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for the resolution for executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the resolution for executive session, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Prasad.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, motion is carried. We're going to go into executive session. When we are done, we are just going to do two pieces of business when we come out of executive session. Number 1, we'll vote to come out of executive session, and number 2, we'll vote to adjourn. So because those are the only things coming out, we're going to end the taping at this point. Thank you very much. Good school year. Be well.